Yay! We did it. Hello. Welcome, everybody. Sorry, we took a little mic test before we started our adventure today. Oh my God, how exciting. So we planned to do this like a month ago, and there's so much fuckery and shit going on that I was like, I almost was like, I don't even know what I can and can't handle right now. And then I thought, you know what? This is literally a book that was engraved not only in my childhood, but every fucking ex-Scientologist, ex-York child. They were ingrained in these behaviors and in this idea and these concepts of this book that we're going to be talking about. I am so excited, first of all, to finally officially, I feel like online, especially if you're across the country and stuff, online is almost just as official as meeting in person. Right, in actual camera.
Absolutely.
So this is my first time officially meeting you, Mirjam, and Samuel, the SP Chef, and I've seen you both multiple times on your own channels, talking about your own things and in your own ways. I've seen Mirjam protesting. Now I've learned so much from you that I was like, I don't know what I would do with the laws that you guys have.
Yeah,
if I know what I would have. Yeah, you have to get I would have to get really creative, even more creative than I'm already trying to be. But it's just crazy with protesting laws, the difference between, you know, even apostate Alex in where he's doing his protest. There's so many different laws in the US, in Denmark, in London, in England, wherever it is. And it's just like, I feel almost grateful to be able to have learned so much just from watching people like you guys on all of this, on our community YouTube sort of vibes, because I've learned so much. Not only that, but then you guys also pulled up like Sam's talked about. Does anybody call you Sam? Did I just randomly do that?
No, nobody really calls me Sam, actually. Yeah.
I just randomly did that. I was like, right. Samuel. I was like, should I read the whole thing, Samuel?
Oh, no, good gracious. No. Yeah, and use all my 3 middle names as well,
yes.
naturally.
Exactly.
Yes, of course.
Why didn't I know?
Yeah.
So, Samuel, I've seen, you're so funny, by the way. I just love the way, that was the first thing I got when I was listening to how you like describe things, or even yours, like scenario, like your view of what was going on in that. It cracks me up, but then I'm also like, whoa, like it solidifies that I'm not, even though we know, like, obviously we see that Scientology clearly manipulates and has their whole organization is literally programmed and drilled to run a certain way and be a certain way. It's still, for some reason, like, acknowledges my younger child to hear other people's story going, exactly, they did the same fucking thing to them in their, even in their life. Like so it just really, very, very interesting. And so I appreciate you guys being here. I really do. I love hearing it heals. It actually does heal, and it makes us all smarter in the long run of listening to other viewpoints, listening to other people's vibes. Also like learning what other people have realized or learned since they've left. And you're going, oh my God, I totally didn't even realize I thought that way as well. Or I respond that way to certain things. Because of this old habit almost. It's almost like we don't mean to do it, but we're just doing it because literally because it's programmed into us because of this book. I mean, not just this book, but I'm saying because of Scientology, but I'm so glad we're able to talk about this. And I know that there's other channels that have already talked about this book, but for me specifically as well, I was so excited when you wrote when you were like, hey, would you want to talk about it? I was like, yes, this would be idealistic, just so that people get, for myself, I want to do it with you guys so I learn from you as well, but then so that people also get a bigger viewpoint and a breakdown of what the mind structure of Scientology children are, like what in the Sea Org or not, just the norm, whatever, the gross garbage from L.
But you know, I have never been in Scientology, so I will have questions.
Right.
Yeah, of course.
You too.
But that's also the interesting perspective, because you see, Lara, for you and I, we will read this and we'll be like, yeah, obviously, in the sense of, we grew up with this. And then you, Mirjam, you will read this and you think to yourself, darlings, WTF? And then we'll sort of your perspective of like, how do you read that? Like, when you read that, what do you get from that? Like, what do you understand from that? Because of course, Lara and I, we grew up with Scientology, with the words of how the way he talks, and we learned how to interpret the things he writes, because he writes many things that are not said out loud. Like, he will say, I'm just gonna make up something. Like, for example, now in talking about children, best behaved children are children that never get fed oats, for example.
Right, exactly.
And then later on he will say, and then he will later on say, all my children were well behaved. So does that mean he never gave them any oats, like they were not allowed to eat oats? He doesn't say these things. Like, he always he does a lot of implying of things, so that later on, I think that's the idea behind it, is when you say, well, how dare you, they were not allowed to eat oats. Okay, I realize it's a bit of a stupid example, but
no,
somebody were to accuse him, because of you, my children never ate oats. And he said, well, I never said you have to do that. I mean, and it's just something that he did in this book as well. Every once in a while, you can see this sort of thing that is suggesting something, but it's not saying it directly. And I remember in Scientology, you take it as direct advice or a direct order, even if he's only suggesting it. And it's interesting to see how you see it, for example, Mirjam. If you even register it as an order, you need to do it like this. You need to treat a child in this sort of way.
Well, I've understood everything is to be taken literally. There should be no deviation to the printed word.
Right. And like, it wasn't an insult at all for children inside, anybody, Scientologist in the Sea Org or not, anybody running on this. It was, when you say literally, they are like literally, like when Joe has a black eye, you're allowed to punch Joe because he's been out ethics. You're allowed to physically assault somebody. But then like that, for example, but then in another policy letter, you could follow, abide by the laws of the land. But then in another policy letter, you may utterly destroy completely anybody who's attacking Scientology. So it's like, there's always like this idea that, oh, I didn't mean to be doing something off policy or wrong. I just didn't know. Like, they're just like assuming you must have not known about this policy letter because you wouldn't be doing this. So let's just do the cramming and fix you and send you to ethics or send you to qualification, the qual division, to have you look and you go, oh my God, I never knew he wrote this booklet, this hand booklet, the Scientology handbook of children. And this is how you're supposed to do it. Oh, and then, they literally make you believe that L. Ron Hubbard has an answer, a policy letter, a way, a literal way of doing something to everything in the world. There's a problem, a solution to everything in the world. And then if there's not, it's like, oh, well, that's psychiatry. That's why there's no policies about it.
Yeah.
Because psychiatry, that's it. Facts. Psychiatry bad. Period. Get them out. They're evil. They're the poison of this. You know what I mean? So like there's certain, and as children with this book, I'm going to pull it up now.
Yeah.
You can't separate that shit. Like as children, you're just going like, it's like you're going to school, like as if you would be going to school somewhere. Okay, let's see how I do this. Let's see if I do it right.
And Lara, did you actually study? Did you actually do the course for this?
Yes, they had us do as many little booklet courses to the Scientology handbook. Here, actually, before I pull, before I pull this up, I wanted to mention not only this book. There's a bunch of little booklets. I'm sure you guys know that.
Yeah, it's a whole from a whole.
Whole. It's from a big book called the Scientology handbook.
Right.
And they made all these little booklets that are sections of the Scientology handbook into these little booklets. So the Scientology handbook was kind of like, if you wanted to know the details quickly of Scientology, here's a great, quick, easy visual. There was pictures, fun things that people could see while they were watching. There was little demonstrations. So it was easy to read and look at and understand kind of if I don't even know if here, that's why I'm saying, Mirjam, you're here. It's easy to understand if you're brainwashed, but maybe to somebody in the outside world, they'll be like, that is insane. Wait. Yeah. Before you even did that, that was insane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they made these. Oh, here's another thing. I just
wanted to hear if this was something also that could be given free of charge to someone, or are these also for sale?
They are definitely for sale, and I don't think they would ever be just. They could as like a gift or something, but you wouldn't. They wouldn't just be like passing these out. This is like a course.
Yeah, I myself have never seen it being given out.
Okay.
But these booklets are really
$40 or something.
Yeah. It was something like that, and
or more. Yeah, but then you do more as you do the course check sheet. They call it a check sheet. And as you go down the check sheet, you got to do, and there's a side thing, the way to happiness. And then there's this. And then, so you end up just getting sucked into anything. You start, that's the whole point. You start one course and you're sucked in.
Yeah. And this is one of those introductory courses. It's a fairly short course. All of these courses are fairly short, and all of them give a very basic understanding of certain things. There's also a small one about doing assists, of word clearing, and all sorts of like little things like that. So this is a very good way of introducing somebody into Scientology. So it's not too crazy all at once. It's sort of manageable bite-size pieces, and it's
that's how we see it. We don't know if that's how we thought, wow, this is, and what I was going to add to all this.
Yeah.
Guys, these books, all these photos, all the kids, everybody in these books are children from the Int Ranch, from the Pack Cadet org. They're all internal kids or Scientologists. They're all, there's nobody in this book that was like a non-Scientologist. I don't even want to say the word, WOG. There's a non-Scientology. There's none in there because they never want to have that risk of somebody saying like, oh yeah, I was in it, but that stuff was weird. They had me on a shoot all day. They filmed all these pictures and all these scenes and all this stuff mainly at the Gold Base and at the Int Ranch. There's some cadets and children in the Scientology handbook that were my friends. They were like my best friends at the Int Ranch, and I remember being like, oh, I wish I could like get a day off of work to go be on the cine shoot. They called it cine shoot. And because I was like, I would rather be doing that than like doing all these, like doing the dishes or, doing all the dishes. Like they're like, Megan, it's your dish week this week. So I was like, I just was like, dreading. I had to do lunch dishes in the big dishwashing, all the chemical, just everything. And my hands were all wrinkled and so like they hurt because they were so wrinkled. I don't know how to explain that feeling from like just
because of course you didn't wear gloves. You just had. Did you guys also? We had these large wash troughs where we would wash the stuff, and then to rinse them, we had a basin with bleach water.
Yeah,
and then we had to put everything through the bleach water.
That's what I mean about the chemicals. Oh, ours was bleach and then actual chemicals like red. I forget what it's called, but it's literally the machine chemicals that we would have that they would get from outside, that the outside, every once in a while, the non-Scientology W word, they'd be like, hey, there's a W person coming onto the ranch. Everybody keep your PR in. And when they would come, they would smell so bad, like perfume. That was one of the main things is we'd be like, oh, the Cisco truck guy is here, or the chemical guy. We would literally be like, oh, the chemical guy is here for the dishwashing. And we would be steaming and always being like, oh, the blah has run out. Yeah, it was bleach. And when those chemicals went out, we would end up using bleach, ammonia, all kinds of things to make sure. And literally, I just realized this. We were told what bleach did, what alcohol did, what we used vinegar for, what newspapers to not use on the windows, only use black and white newspapers.
Yes.
Like every chemical was even like told to us by the adults that have been recruiting and grooming us on this property. And this happens everywhere where there are children, including babies and infants. Anyways, so I was just saying that this booklet means so much visually to my childhood, because I literally had, anytime I was doing something wrong, anytime, you know, I felt like I needed a locational, I needed to know what was being done to me. And I just did by such a young age, let alone the people in here are literally older cadets, like, or not older cadets, but cadets that are older now, that were young children at the cadet, or being dressed up and made to look so good and cute and innocent. Like, I remember being like, oh, I want to go have fun on that cine photo shoot. I'll be able to eat, you know, the snacks they have. It was so fun just to be a part of, and you were privileged literally if you were put on a shoot, like they were like, oh, we didn't realize it, but we were gonna be in these books that they were making. Okay. Without further ado, let me pull it up so people don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
And while you do that, are you both familiar with each other's background? Like, when did you join the Sea Org and Cadet Org? Do you know anything about each other's history?
I know a little bit about SP Chef because I've seen some of his videos and him talking about. Okay, wait, is it sharing or no? There we go. Can you see that? Yeah. Okay, so this is the, oh, I can go like this. I wonder if, there we go. Is that better? So we'll just go down. You see how I can just kind of go like this? And we'll just go down and read and kind of go through the whole book, right? Does that work for you guys?
Sure.
Can
you zoom in a little bit more?
I was just saying, like, when we do go. So this image very much was like being like, oh, I want to be a good cadet like this. I need to be a good child. How do I get bright and shiny like that? That must be a lot of auditing sessions. And also, is this child holding their parent's hand, their father's hand? Or is that their auditor?
Or Elron.
From the Scientology handbook. Is that good? You can see it now? Is that good for the zoom in? Or do you mean get rid of this? These sidebar things. I don't know how to do that without, I think, cutting it all out. But so this image would be one of the booklets, literally. That would be, you know, everybody would feel so good, like, oh, I have all my booklets, you know, all the, if I need to refer to something, I just go in there, purification, you know, to integrity, whatever it was, we'd go to this booklet. So this booklet was constantly pulled up for children to have to be like, look, you know, this is what L. Ron Hubbard says. And the fucking weird thing is, like, I'm just kind of being like, it's so weird that my brain didn't realize, oh, we made those videos, those pictures, those things. Like, I didn't realize the book that we made them for is the book that's being used for the mind changing from the outside world to the inside world of Scientology.
Yeah.
Like, I just was like, oh, well, they're just showing examples of how L. Ron Hubbard's technology work. I don't know, whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you were not being told many things. I mean, when I was at a cadet org and we had to do certain missions that were maybe a bit more interesting or exciting, we didn't actually know what they were for, really.
Right.
Because you just learn not to ask. You don't ask questions like that. If you're not given information, it means because you don't have the authority to know this information. You just are supposed to follow orders, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay, we don't have to read all this garbage.
No.
This is just their fake PR intro.
Yeah.
And the thing is like, people like my brother worked on all this design and stuff when he was from like 18 years old at Gold Base, all, you know, until he left when he was like 25 or 26. That's a huge chunk of his, like, you know, childhood, from like even becoming a quote 18-year-old. Like, now you're 18, you're all of a sudden an adult. Like, that's so insane to me.
Yeah.
After you've literally minimized their maturity by having them in such a gross cult where they were not even allowed to think anything else other than what we're showing here. Okay, I'm gonna go to this. So we'll skip through this crap. Scientology making the world a better place. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is just all bullshit. You guys
Yeah,
can
it's just
read it.
introductory.
It's all introductory stuff.
Yeah.
You can read it up close if you really care.
Like how to use the book.
Yeah, how to
basically.
use this book. You must go, do not. Okay, so how to live with children. Is this, yeah, this is the first one. So we should, so this is page 1, I guess, right? How to raise. So let's see, what's this? Making the world a better brain. Use what you read in this pages to help yourself and others, and you will too. Okay, so now it says the first page of this is how to raise a happy, healthy child. Oh, sorry. How to raise a happy, healthy child is not something most parents are taught. In fact, many just stumble through the entire process. Albeit? Is that, what is that?
Albeit.
Oh, albeit.
Albeit.
Albeit with best intentions. There we go. Consequently, it is all too common to find an unhappy state of affairs in families with constant friction between parents and children. It is not a natural state of affairs. In fact, it can be avoided entirely. L. Ron Hubbard developed many methods to bring out the best in a child and its parents. Fucking gross. In this booklet, you will read about some of these methods and discover how to raise a child without breaking his spirit, how to have a child who is willing to contribute to the family, and how to help a child quickly get over the daily upsets and tribulations of life. Why does it just say his spirit? And anyways, raising children should be a joy and can be. What is he saying? It's not? Okay. Raising children should be a joy and can be, period. In fact, it can be one of the most rewarding of all human experiences. How would you know, L. Ron Hubbard? The application of Scientology principles to the bringing up of children can ensure that they are happy, loving, and productive, and that they become valued members of the society, of the societies in which they live. Well, yeah, right about that. Okay, how to live with children. So this is a book that adults can read on how to basically like deal with children, right? Is that what you feel, Samuel?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in my case, I actually did this course when I was, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 or 9 years old. And the reason being, I was a very childish child. I was a very awkward, very shy child. And so I basically ended up doing every communication course I could have done, including this, to try to basically make friends and just get along with other children, because I was just not really interested in other children all that much. I was very introverted, which of course in Scientology is a very bad thing. And I was just not, I was more interested in my little hobbies. I was collecting stamps. I was collecting old coins. I was collecting interesting stones that I found and things. And there was very antisocial behavior. And so they were trying to get me, they being my parents, to basically become more social and make more friends. And so I did every possible communication course, including this one, to try to know how to handle children, basically. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So once you find out you're not a child, you're just a small body.
Yeah.
You know, a big spirit in a small body. Then they're like, so since you know you're an adult now, this is how you handle children.
Yeah. And that's basically what he will say on here as well. He will imply this very heavily.
Okay. So let's get to it. So I think we have like I don't know, 30 pages of, but a lot of them will be pictures as well. Okay, so this is how to live with children. This is literally the disgusting shit that L. Ron Hubbard put together to control and mind control children and say, this is how to do it. I care so much about kids. This is how you do it. That's literally like, okay, this is where the garbage begins. The main problem with children, this is from L. Ron Hubbard. The main problem with children is how to live with them. The adults is the problem in child raising, not the child. Well, you got that fucking right. A good, stable adult with love and tolerance in his heart. Why does he keep saying his? A good, stable adult with love and tolerance in his heart is about the best therapy a child can have. So then why did you take that away from us? The main sorry, I'm totally dubbing in things. The main consideration in raising children is the problem of training them without breaking them. You want to raise your child in such a way that you don't have to control him, so that he will be in full possession of himself at all times. Upon that depends his good behavior, his health, his sanity. Children are not dogs. They can't be trained like dogs are trained. They are not controllable items. They are, and let's not overlook the point, men and women. A child is not a special species of animal distinct from man. A child is a man or a woman who has not attained full growth. Any law which applies to the behavior of men and women applies to children. Did you fucking hear that, Mirjam?
Yeah.
And that's in slanted. That's like that right there. I'm so glad I printed this out physically, at least half of it.
Yeah, I had to do it as well.
I want to highlight literally all the illegal issues here. This right here. Any law which applies to the behavior of men and women applies to children. That literally violates the actual law.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking
by L. Ron Hubbard right there. Any law which applies to the behavior of men and women all applies to children.
Yeah, and this book is supposed to advise raising a child without breaking them. When basically all children grown up in Scientology are somewhat broken when they...
Well, they're doing that. They're breaking... No, not somewhat. They break you down. They break away anything that is of your own like loving and choice without their permission. They'll allow you to do it if you have permission.
Yeah, other but it's a book of contradictions. That's what it is. It's saying one thing.
Yeah, it keeps on. Hubbard keeps on saying, "Don't control, and he says, "This is how you control them."
Yeah,
literally.
So it's kind of like what? Yeah,
that's Scientology in its all in all of its form. Even by them stealing the definition of auditing, they're doing it, but they're doing something fucking else. It's like it's really disgusting. Okay. So that's disgusting. I mean, this is all disgusting, but how would you so it says any law which applies to the behavior of men and women applies to children. So however men and women are treated, and any law which applies to the behavior of men and women applies to children. Children are to be treated the same way right there. Okay. How would you like to be pulled and hauled and ordered about and restrained from? So he does the reverse psychology thing where he's like, how would you, a child doesn't like that. A child shouldn't be controlled and all that. You should just make them control themselves to do it and brainwash them into doing it so that you don't have to do it. So he's trying to say he's trying to reverse that by being like, how would you like to be pulled and hauled and ordered about and restrained from doing whatever you wanted to do? ? You resent it. The only reason a child doesn't resent it because he's small. So he's literally making his nasty statement of children are just our children. They're small, big spirits in small bodies. And then making that a reasonable statement where basically children can get SA'd and all of that. These are literally from the beginning of your little child handbook. These are the small statements that L. Ron Hubbard puts in his fucking trash that when you're reading it, you're kind of going, in a right mind, right? You're thinking, well, yeah, how would you like to be pulled and hauled and ordered about and restrained from doing what you wanted to do? You'd resent it. Yeah. He's trying to blur the line of common sense and yes, in the real world. And then this is what he does in all of Scientology, where he makes it reasonable or okay that because it's Scientology now, we have the right materials, the right truth, the right laws. So we're going to follow these laws because we know better.
Right. And he's obviously trying, as you describe it, blur the lines between an adult and a child. So if you as an adult dislike this, then naturally a child would also dislike that. And he doesn't account for the fact that a child doesn't understand the environment, doesn't know how the world works, and the parents are there to protect the child. And that's why maybe there are certain limitations for a child. You're not gonna just, you know, allow him to start cooking just because he wants to cook, and using a gas oven and using sharp knives just because he wants to do that. As an adult, you will be offended if somebody were to say, no, you're not allowed to cook because you might, you know, whatever.
Right.
So he's trying to blur the lines there again with this whole idea that children can be just as, you know, reasonable as an adult, you know, human, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and it's not just in this booklet, it's in all kinds of shit he writes. So we're just, again, we're dissecting his crap in just this children's booklet that this is what they have parents when they first get into Scientology. This is one of the first courses that they have kids. They're going to be like, okay, well, this is, you know, let's start. First, we're going to get you on, you know, the study manual so you know how to read Scientology.
Right.
And then you're going to do a simple course on, you know, how to, you know, be better with your children, how to live with children, how to live with them because they're just such a burden.
Did you think your parents were treating you as advice in this book?
Oh, well, 100% all the time. They most definitely were because they're executives of the Sea Org. So they definitely were, but they were disappointed when they even had to sort of bring it up. Like, well, that's a little banky. Come on. Like they were disappointed when they had to remind me that what I'm doing is a reactive mind thing and that I need to stay my bright, shiny, uptone, healthy, happy child self. And not.
What about you, Samuel?
Yeah, I would say it was the same. And you know, when I was a child, as I said, I was very introverted, and so I came across as very mature for my age because I was very quiet. I was more interested in listening rather than saying something, and I only wanted to say something when I was very certain about what I was going to say. And my mother, I mean, she told me when I was very young that I'm a returnee, and I told her that. So meaning I actually was a Scientology in a past life. So I cannot, like, I've always felt like I was treated as an adult. I mean, I cannot remember ever being, I don't know, like mollycoddled or anything like that. I mean, it could have happened, you know, before the age of 4, 3 or whatever, whenever it is that you start to, you know, remember a bit more. But from the moment I was able to read and understand, I was put on courses, and again, because I was so reserved, you know, I was able, you know, I came across as very mature, but I was just very shy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say, yeah, my parents definitely used this, and my mother used many weird methods with me as well, which I didn't, because I obviously read the whole thing just to remind myself what it's all about. She used many methods that are not mentioned in here. It's probably some other course. And how was it for you, Lara, rereading this? Because I felt more
I literally
frustration.
Related it.
I felt frustrated.
My God, that was the first word.
Because there are several times. So because I'm that kind of person, I have to, you know, do notes and everything. Yeah. There's several times where there are little nuggets. The little things were like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. And then he just has to make a statement of, this is how it is, absolutely. And he gives you no nuance. He gives you nothing. So there are little nuggets in between where you can read and you're like, oh yes, I can agree with that. But everything around that is just absolutely ridiculous. And I found it so frustrating because it was almost like you're almost there, but not quite. But just missing the mark.
And that's Scientology. You're almost there. You're almost going to get that freedom. Oh, just one more OT level. Oh, look at that. Nervousness finally worked. Look at that. Now you're almost getting to that joy you want. It's always a dangling carrot. And not only that, it's being pushed with blackmail and auditing and relief because you're getting things off. You feel like you're becoming a more a sinless person or whatever. You're feeling more pure in your mind.
And of course, status. You know, the more
status.
The more courses you have under your belt, you know, the better you are automatically, regardless of whether you actually got anything out of it. Really,
the whole brag. I hear this a lot in ex-Scientologists.
Yeah,
they kind of brag about In the kind of the same way, I don't brag about it because it's this old habit of, ooh, I got so far, I achieved so much, even if it was in such a shit fucking pile of organizational crap. Like in the crap, it was still a game. Like life is fucking all these little games and enjoyment and loving things and relaxing and, you know, like all the things we never had. And when we do have them, even inside of the work we're doing, we have to find little pockets of joy.
Sure.
In the same ways that he puts little pockets of random crap, people like to then go, oh, well, L. Ron Hubbard over here says this. Oh, well, over here. Okay, fine. Let's settle this with, you know, you can have Upstat Award on Friday nights, you know, and then it's like, okay, good. Now I can feel free in this environment all of a sudden because you settled for something so fucked up and small, but it seems so big in such a controlled organization.
Yeah.
You know? Hold on 1 second. Whoa, my earbud just went in. 1 second.
So, and Mirjam, how was that for you? Obviously, never having read this before.
It's freezing.
Oh. Mirjam might be out for a moment. She looks frozen.
Hi, I'm here.
I think my earbud dropped in my tea, guys.
Oh, right.
See me?
You can still hear me, right? Yeah, we can see you, Mirjam.
Okay, I was not sure if it was my connection or your connection, or
I think it just goes a little bit slow, maybe because, you know, speaking of pockets, when you're in little pockets, it goes a little slow because you're so far and we're on. But it's good. Right now, I can hear everything, and sometimes mine might go out, but the live stream actually does.
Yeah, because I saw that everyone was going like blank at one point here, so I didn't know if it was my computer or if
I think it's just you.
Okay. Good to know. It's just me.
Okay, well, I can hear you both still, right? You can hear me?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay, good. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so there's these little pockets of like you were saying, Samuel, where there's like contradictions and you're almost getting it, you're almost there, but then you're like, oh, I disagree with this, or I have an upset about this, or I don't understand, what does this mean, how is this going to cure my cancer, or whatever it is that people go to do the courses or the levels, or they spend all this money for, and they go, oh, well, that you'll handle on the next level, or yeah, so there's always this dangling carrot, and they do this from childhood. They do this from, you know, okay, we'll let you have the Upstat Award, which means that when you're up statistic, which is it's all programmed in the, you know, in the child, like everything we say Upstat Award, that means a whole lot. That means if your statistics for your job or your post that week were going up stat and you had approval from your senior, then you were allowed to go have pizza or the movie or whatever it is for the 2 hours that they allotted. And so it just seems like such a quick, like, do I get to go to the Upstat Award or da-da-da-da? But all of this is programmed in, like, oh, you're going to be out exchange. You know, we're going to allow you to go to the Upstat Award and you're not going to. Okay, hold on 1 sec. Guys, you guys want to keep going for 1 second?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, because I think I had some.
Yeah, so Mirjam, I was asking before, because obviously I've did the course now, I've reread it again. I felt a lot of frustration because obviously when I read it first time, I was a child. So now I'm fully developed, shall we say, as an adult. I have some perspective, and I felt a lot of frustration because there was, as I said, a few times where I was like, yes, this is actually very wise what he says. And then he just has to go and just ruin it. And how's that for you, reading it for the first time, you know?
I think it's just so, how do you say, split. Like, it's promising that you know, you can raise your children to be independent and, you know, free thinking and whatever, and then the actual advice is totally against that.
Right. Yeah, it's like split personality.
Yeah. So.
All right. Shall we just keep going with the reading of it?
Yeah, we can do that. It's a long book.
Yeah. Okay, should I just continue for a while?
Yeah. I think we can't scroll it, but we can just go further.
Well, I have the physical copy.
Ah, okay, great.
So once Lara is here, we can have a scroll, and then obviously everybody can go back to the video and look at that if they want to read it more precisely.
Yes.
Right. So we got this part. So I'm just going to read the last little part again.
Mm-hmm.
The child doesn't strike back because he isn't big enough. He gets your floor muddy, interrupts your nap, destroys the peace of the home instead. If he had equality with you in the matters of rights, he'd not ask for the revenge. The revenge is standard child behavior. So this is also very interesting. So he's basically implying here that if a child misbehaves or makes mistakes, it's because it's his way of dealing revenge against his parents.
Yes.
Rather than just, it's a child, it's a growing body, right? He doesn't know how long his arm is or whatever. He can't, judge the distance of something, and then he just crashes into something or whatever. Well, it's not because he's a child. It's because he's trying to have a revenge against his parents. And this is his way of doing it, because he's not obviously able to actually, a little earlier, he says,
and he also describes that in the womb, when like children can have these, I remember Tilty Bird was talking about this on their channel, where they were dissecting some of L. Ron Hubbard's, like what he talks about in Engrams and Child's Mind, is that they started like creating this rebellion or this revenge inside of the womb of the mother. It's been going since, they were mad mom didn't give them the milk or drank the beer, and so now they're getting revenge. Whatever they come up with, anyway, sorry, I just thought of that when you were.
Yeah, he very briefly dives into an incident where a child talks about I was upset when I was in a very dark place, and so on and so forth. And then eventually turns out the child is remembering the time when she was in the mother's belly. So it very briefly talks about it as well here.
Okay, good. Maybe I was like, oh God, we're going to have to bring that up now. Okay, I also like you reading it. I'll keep it on the main thing. This is one of the reasons why I listened to your channel, is I loved hearing your intelligent voice, even if you were a child, was so this
please. I just pretend it till you make it.
Either way,
fake it till you make it. That's what they say. I'm a little bit anxious of reading out loud because of all, I'm sure, Lara, you have that a little bit as well. Because you cannot make a mistake when you read out loud in Scientology, because it means flunk, there's a misunderstood word or whatever. But I'll just, get over myself. I just have to practice a little bit as well.
We're not in Scientology now. We're allowed to make mistakes.
Yes. So, you know what? I'm just gonna read this little part again where you started it and I sort of finished it, just so we, from How Would You Like? I'll read it from there. How would you like to be pulled and hauled and ordered about and restrained from doing whatever you want to do? You'd resent it. The only reason a child doesn't resent it is because he's small. You'd half murder somebody who treated you and Aldert with the orders, contradictions, and disrespect given to the average child. The child doesn't strike back because he isn't big enough. He gets your floor muddy, interrupts your nap, destroys the peace of the home instead. If he had equality with you in the matter of rights, he'd not ask for this revenge. The revenge is standard child behavior. So basically, because a child cannot murder you, he'll muddy the floor, basically. Yeah.
Makes sense.
Absolutely. Self-determinism is that state of being wherein the individual can or cannot be controlled by his environment according to his own choice. In that state, the individual has self-confidence in his control of the material universe and other people. So now this is where I marked, where I thought this is a little nugget of wisdom from Hubbard. But then later on, it just, But this is something I thought was very nice, what he wrote. A child has a right to his self-determinism. You say that if he is not restrained from pulling things down on himself, running into the road, etc., he'll be hurt. What are you as an adult doing to make that child live in a room or an environment where he can be hurt? The fault is yours, not his if he breaks things. So now he's saying that if a child breaks things, gets hurt, it's not really the child's fault because the child doesn't know better. It's the fault of the adult who's responsible for having put the child in that environment. And I have to say, yes, I agree. But wait a minute, you just said earlier something differently about that.
Yeah.
So it's like a little nugget of, like, it's one of those things you can sort of, they can print it and put it on a nice little plaque on the wall to say, look, this is a quote from Hubbard, but everything around it, they're not going to write.
Yeah. And I think, I don't remember how they, did you ever have that issue where you were in the org or whatever, and you had like some Sea Org? I had this in ethics as like as an MAA, where like one policy says something and then there was something else for something, and I was like, I don't know what to do. I need to ask the LRH host or whatever. Like, I was like, what's the policy above this policy that we all clearly don't know about? Like, so they would have somebody that would have to go find whatever the policy was somewhere in the archives of some shit that L. Ron Hubbard stated somewhere for something that this is how you do it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Hubbard wrote so many stuff that he contradicts himself constantly. And so what we did in the cadet org really was, well, whatever the youngest policy was. So if he wrote something in 68 and then he wrote something else in 72, we would have to apply what is written in 72, basically.
So
however,
it's like a correction to the
it's
prior.
like almost like a correction, or like he changes his mind without saying, I've changed my mind about that. However, there were incidences where it's like, well, no, because you see, this is, I don't know, like an HUPL, and this one over there is a bulletin. And in this instance, this is more relevant to the bulletin, so we have to follow this. Or this is an FO, or whatever it is, that there's almost like, you could just play around with it. And then again, as well, depends who is trying to enforce the policy. If somebody is very senior, then it doesn't matter if you actually know. If he's quoting a policy, for example, and you know he's misquoting it, you wouldn't dare to correct him on that or whatever, you know. Or if you knew a different policy that would contradict the other policy, you would not mention that policy. You would just simply do what you're told. So it always depends as well.
Especially it's who, exactly, who orders it. If they're higher, if fucking Dave Muscat or Mike Rinder came in and said, everybody's doing the PURIF. All the children right now in the cadet org are doing the PURIF. Everybody would be lined up to do the PURIF. Even if there were people who are like, oh, Mr. Rinder. No. Everybody would be doing the PURIF. They would adjust it to your thing, but they would still be, no matter what, there's no reason that you would be here up in the cadet org without being able to follow these policy letters 100% all the time, right when we tell you to do them.
Yeah. And even if you're in the middle of another course, and if in a course, you're not allowed to just do another course. You can't do two courses at the same time. So even if you're in the middle of another course and Lara, this example happened, it will guarantee happen. That will just simply be put aside and you just go and do the purification. Absolutely.
That's happened so many times or they just mandatory, everybody has to do the basics. Stop what you're doing, do the basics.
Yeah.
All of a sudden everybody's on one of the self-analysis or ethics book or whatever. Do the basics. And you're like, okay, where was I? Oh, yeah, the PTSSP course. So people are like, well, what do they do in there all day long? This is what they fucking do. They're literally in a completely different world than the world that we're in because they don't have to worry, quote, worry. They should want to worry. What if I wanted a cell phone? How would I pay that cell phone bill? But they have them from birth being told, this is how you do. This is how you talk to people. This is how you operate. This is what's good for you. This is what's not. Your parents, and then having parents that are in the Sea Org, that's a whole nother ball game. Having parents in Scientology, that's a whole nother ball game. Like if you're, you know what I mean? So it's just, okay.
Different layers.
Different layers. So the executive thing, like if somebody's senior to you, that's what they say. If a senior comes, why did you do that? My senior. It's almost like the lower person can't even really get in trouble because their senior would be the one to get in trouble because they were just following an order.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what the policy said. Follow your executive order and follow the highest order. So it didn't matter who it came from or if the person who gave the order was your parent, like, or wasn't your parent. vice versa, literally had no right to be giving you an order as an underage child to be doing something that was so horrendous or completely illegal for a child to be doing. But the child and the person ordering them does it anyways because of the policies of L. Ron Hubbard. And you can't, and they're very, when we say literally, and we're so strict about it, they're very strict. They are literally like, if you don't do exactly what it says, you are out tech, which means that you are the worst person on the planet. You're similar. You are leaning toward being a suppressive person. Like you are leaning toward being somebody who utterly, by doing these little things, is trying to destroy the whole world.
Yeah. Because the idea behind that is because if you don't apply it 100% correctly, it cannot get the result that you want. So naturally, you are purposely trying to make Scientology fail by not following it precisely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
I hate, by the way, I hate to do this. We're 1 hour in and we're on page 6 out of how many pages?
36 or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, 38.
Well, we had I had to deal with something. So
yeah, of
now
course.
we can rumble through.
Yeah, it's just that if you want to split it in 2 or whatever, if you want to really take the time looking into it, so we can sit together and look at it another time for the second half, or however you prefer.
Whatever. Well, let's get how much time, Samuel, are you on a tight schedule? What is your thing right now?
No, my schedule is fine at the moment.
But
maybe another hour or so is okay for me.
That's what I was
Mirjam. Is for
yes,
you okay?
Yes, absolutely fine.
I feel like we're just explaining the basic stuff, and so once we get even more and more, we'll go pretty quick. I think we can get it all done actually. So if that happens, then we can always move on. But
maybe we can do, if it's okay for you, Lara, we can do about an hour and a half, an hour 40, and then the last 20 minutes, maybe we can look at the chat, answer any questions, start questions or whatever.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right, cool.
Okay, so do you want to keep reading? Because I like it when you do it, but if you don't and you feel weird, I can read as well.
No, it's fine. I'll read a little bit, and then maybe Mirjam can do a little bit, and then
I like
do a little bit like that.
Okay, good.
All right, good. The sweetness and love of a child is preserved only so long as he can exert his own self-determinism. You interrupt that, and to a degree, you interrupt his life. There are only 2 reasons why a child's right to decide for himself has to be interrupted: the fragility and danger of his environment and you. For you work out on him the things that were done to you, regardless of what you think. So basically, if you were mistreated as a child, when you later on grow up and you have children, you will mistreat the child in the same way that you were mistreated. And here is just categorically, it's just, that is the way it is. That is just the way it is. Finished. Yeah. There are 2 courses you can take. Give the child leeway in an environment he can't hurt, and which can't badly hurt him, and which doesn't greatly restrict his own space and time. And through Scientology services, you can clean up your own aberrations, departures from rational thoughts or behaviors, to a point where your tolerance equals or surpass his lack of education in how to please you. So this part, I did a large question mark because I was like, what does that even mean? I mean, this is just sort of like word gibberish, this next part. When you give a child something, it is his. It is not still yours. Clothes, toys, quarters, what he has been given must remain under his exclusive control. So he tears up his shirt, wrecks his bed, breaks his fire engine. It's none of your business. How would you like to have somebody give you a Christmas present and then tell you day after day thereafter what you are to do with it, and even punish you if you fail to care for it the way the donor thinks you should? You'd wreck that donor and ruin that present. You know you would. The child wrecks your nerves when you do it to him. There's revenge. He cries. He pesters you. He breaks your things. He accidentally spills the milk. And he wrecks the possessions on purpose, about which he is so often cautioned. Why? because he is fighting for his own self-determinism, his own right to own and make his weight felt on his environment. This possession is another channel by which he can be controlled. So he has to fight the possession and the controller. And I read that, I was like, what are you talking about? I mean, if you have, obviously children get things dirty and break things. And, you know, you as a parent need to make sure that things are taken care of and so on and so forth. You can't just give him things. He breaks all the time and then just give him the next thing without any, you know, caution, without looking after it. And again, he's again using this example. Well, imagine this happens to you as an adult. Wouldn't you be upset about that? Well, we're talking about children. We're not talking about adults.
Yeah, and this is where this is so important, because again, this is where he constantly blurs the line and he normalizes pedophilia and all of the illegal sexual abuse. Literally, the grape. I don't like saying that. It's called rape. It's literally rape, and they call it out 2D. So this is how they do it. They're doing it from childhood. This is how you numb somebody from having their own even awareness. They can walk around in the outside world like literal zombies because they're under a spell. They're under this. And not only that, they have a schedule. They're like, oh, I have to, it doesn't matter what's going on in this, you know, because it's not like where somebody's like, oh, I'm going to have to cancel my appointment. You know, my friend here needs help. They can't just do that. They have a schedule and statistics and things that they're always abiding by. And they have to, you know, their mind is like, oh, I don't want to be late for muster because then I'm going to get pulled into ethics and then I'm going to get a sec check. And then it just like everything is, you're always on pins and needles. You're like, or what if that you're on, you know, eggshells. So
on eggshells, sure.
Yeah. And
how was it to have your very own things, especially not living at home as a child? Were you very careful with your own property and special items that you would have on you? Or
at the Int Ranch specifically, the kids were only allowed to have a certain amount of things.
Yeah.
So like, you know, and they're like, well, that's the honor, you know, that's what comes with being an honorable cadet at the Int Ranch. You know, your family's doing all this work, your mom and dad, and don't, you know, and so it's like, oh, good. At least I get to keep a picture on my dresser, one picture with it. Like they were very specific. And, there's even policy or whatever they call them. There's like things that L. Ron Hubbard wrote of why children only have, you know, you don't want to, you know, the mess that they call things like messed. This is just made up things. Why does a child need all these, you know, physical things to make them happy when real happiness comes from Scientology and auditing and processing? So they're like, people attach themselves to things, physical things, and they call that messed. So they're like, oh, that's just messed, you know, that's not like your freedom. And that's horrible for a child, because a lot of children I know now, obviously I see my friends' children's and everybody, and they're just like, they love certain things, or they love their hair a certain way, and don't ruin that. And like, there was so much of that missing. And was controlled. Like, well, you can only wear your hair that way on Sunday morning when your mom comes or whatever to visit you. Like, there was so many things where it was like, so many things were so controlled. And it always was like, goes back to, well, you know, we're putting in this, you know, FO or this document or this, you know, bulletin where L. Ron Hubbard says this is how you deal with children, or this is how you live with children. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Yeah. Going back to that. Sorry. Spilling the milk again.
Yeah. Right.
So where were you reading from, Samuel?
I was up to so he has to fight to the possessions and the controller.
Okay, cool. So he has to fight. Okay, so this possession is another channel by which he can be controlled. So he has to fight for he has to fight the possession and the controller.
Yeah.
There's my cat in the background. Doubtless, some people were so poorly raised they think control is the ne plus ultra highest point of child raising. Is the ne plus ultra highest point of child raising? Oh, control. If you want to control your child, simply break him into complete apathy and he'll be as obedient as any hypnotized half-wit. Gee, that's what you made us do. If you want to know how to control him, get a book on dog training. Name the child Rex and teach him first to fetch and then to sit. Oh, sorry. And then to sit up and then to bark for his food. You can train a child that way. Sure, you can. But it's your hard luck if he turns out to be a bloodletter, a person who causes bloodshed. Okay. Mirjam, you're totally welcome to take over since you're also fun to listen to.
Let's see. Of course, you'll have a hard time of it. This is a human being. It will be tough because man became king of the beast only because he couldn't, as a species, be licked. What does that mean?
I don't know.
To be licked,
have a hard
doesn't that
time
mean?
of it.
Doesn't
This
mean
is
to
a
be
human
to be
being.
like
It
to
would
be like punched or something? When you get licked?
Maybe.
Species.
Yeah, he doesn't easily go into an obedient apathy like dogs do. Men own dogs because men are self-determined and dogs aren't. The reason people started to confuse children with dogs and started to training children with force lies in the field of psychology. The psychologist worked on principles as follows. Man is evil. Man must be trained into being a social animal. Man must adapt to his environment. I mean, we don't know if there's any factual basis on this.
No, we don't know at
no.
all if this is actually true.
No.
I don't, sorry, I was saying no, I don't think this is just him just spewing up shit that he just like heard and I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, it happens. It happens a lot. People say things that are not true, and yeah, especially if it's written, then it must be true, right?
Mm-hmm.
As these postulates aren't true, psychology doesn't work. And if you ever saw a wreck, it's the child of a professional psychologist. Attention to the world around us instead of text somebody thought up after reading somebody's text shows us the fallacy of these postulates.
As these postulates are true. Sorry, I just want to read that again. As these postulates are true, is he saying this or is he like, oh no, he's not.
Aren't
so he's saying,
true. Yeah.
As these postulates aren't true, psychology doesn't work. And if you ever saw a wreck, it's the child of a professional psychologist. Attention to the world around us instead of to text somebody thought up after reading somebody's text shows us the fallacy of these postulates. I don't understand what the fuck that's saying.
Yeah, I don't get it as well.
Okay, well, if you don't get it, then I'm not going to get it. So it's probably just ooga booga bullshit.
Yeah, it is, because I mean, I don't know how many psychologist children L. Ron Hubbard knew, but probably zero.
Okay, yeah. Do you want to keep? Sorry, I just had to read because I was like, am I just not understanding something? What's going on?
Yeah, it's not very understandable. The actuality is quite opposite the previous beliefs. The truth lies in this direction. Man is basically good. Only by severe aberration can man be made evil. Severe training drives him into non-sociability. Man must retain his personal ability to adapt his environment to him to remain sane. A man is as sane and safe as he is self-determined.
That's so gross.
Okay. So, yeah, I don't know if we should read this word to word, but this is, for example, an interesting point here in the start. In raising your child, you must avoid training him into a social animal. What does that mean? It was already referred before. What is bad about being a social animal?
Yeah, you see, so I think when you say that, my child mind literally goes, well, the outside world is dangerous, and man is dangerous because they're all screwed up and they need Scientology. So the So the social animal, like in raising your, like you're in like a, you know, to the wolves kind of world. I think. What do you think, SP Chef? Into social animal?
Into a social animal. I think he's trying to say like being like, I think these days there's a very modern word called an NPC, a non-playable character. This is usually when you play a computer game.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody like at the market stall, or somebody who's just standing there and is just doing a routine and doesn't think about anything. It's just there to be a background character. And I think he's trying to refer here to, don't be a social animal in that sense. Don't be one of these NPCs who's just there doing what you're told by society, without thinking about it, without having self-determinism. You're just going with it, being just a cog in the machine. I think that's how I interpret what that means.
Okay. Yeah.
Don't know if that's true or not, but sounds a little bit poetic. So there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, you want me to go, or you want to do?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I can go also.
Oh my God, I'm just seeing there are a lot of fucking.
Yeah. It was not to be rude at all. I mean, we have plenty of.
I know, it's just even just the first pages we've done, we've already broken down a bunch of like just nonsense. That's what's so insane. It's like you can pull up anything, but I do like the dissecting it. Okay, so
did we? Okay. Let's see. Let's start on the second paragraph here. Permit a child to sit on your lap. He'll sit there contented. Now put your arms around him and constrain him to sit there. Do this even though he wasn't even trying to leave. Instantly, he'll squirm. He'll fight to get away from you. He'll get angry. He'll cry. Recall now, he was happy before you started to hold him. All these sentences just makes me upset when I know people are held against their will all the time, and this is a kind of like advising that you should not restrain people.
That's what's even more contradicting. They literally use TR training drills. They call them TR training drills to literally get people used to constricting somebody in the environment they're in. Get them used to being like comfortable with being held against their will.
Yeah, that you need to
have to
try and move and someone is trying to hold you still.
Yeah, exactly.
Your efforts to mold, train, control this child in general react on him exactly like trying to hold him on your lap. Of course, you will have difficulty if this child of yours has already been trained, controlled, ordered about, denied his own possessions. In mid-flight, you change your tactics. You try to give him his freedom. He's so suspicious of you, he will have a terrible time trying to adjust. The transition period will be terrible, but at the end of it, you'll have a well-ordered, well-trained social child, thoughtful of you, very important to you, a child who loves you.
Yeah, he mentions a well-trained child.
I was like, well, that was normal. And us reading that at the cadet org as a child, we were like, okay, good. Well, we got to follow this so that we are a well-trained child.
Was it Lena's comment you put up there before?
Yeah, I just put it up just so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that could be a good disclaimer.
Yeah, I left it up there just so people know. All of this is garbage. If you didn't hear me already say that a bunch as we talk about this. It's confusing and disturbing and gross and manipulative and dark. And this was literally the tools used to control the minds of children for years and years and years and years, and they were used to control children by other people that weren't even their parents,
right?
All the time surrounding them, and as they were getting older, all the time, this was always the idea, the concepts, the way of being in the Sea Org, as everything. This is always something you're never going to forget, because these are the basics of Scientology.
Yeah, and even if like trying to understand it a little bit, it's a product of its time, and probably at that time there was a lot of different guides that would be frowned upon today. but this is still applied as is today.
Right. Yeah.
And that's what
exactly.
makes it problematic.
All across Scientology, yeah.
Yep. Okay, let's go. I feel like I just want to like keep. I don't necessarily want to read all this. It's giving me like gross. What do you think, SP?
I mean,
you have made notes. Samuel has made notes, so maybe.
I mean, Lara,
let's go over your notes.
You've made some notes as well, Lara.
Yeah, I just on a few things.
I thought maybe what we can do is you can still scroll through it slowly so that anybody who watches can stop, can read it all in detail.
Yes,
and
later
we
on.
can
That's
just
perfect.
Look
then
at the
I
notes
don't feel
that
like
we have and things and you
perfect.
know.
Okay, so let's go to here. Where were we on that one, Mirjam?
I think we were page 6.
Yes,
on 6, and we were
in the middle.
Yeah, basically saying like if you show it, if you hold the child, it's psychotic behavior. This is insane, and that's where I got distracted. I was saying later on, after you have learned this stuff, you slowly start going, oh, well, to get to a trained child, you do the training routines, you do the training drills. And then up here, you're going to see this guy, his name is Kevin. And I'm zooming in now. This guy is
someone
Kevin.
you knew.
Oh, no, I thought this was Kevin Murphy. This is John Lindstein. Yeah, he was a cadet at the Int Ranch. And this is him as a cadet at the Int Ranch. They filmed all of this. They set it all up. They did all this at the Int Ranch or at the Gold Base, literally. And he still works, I believe, at the Gold Base.
Wow.
In CMO Gold or something like that, because he's older now. But yes, he was a cadet at the Int Ranch.
And I see a cake there. And Lara, you had some story about getting a cake when it.
And it did not look like this at all. My parents were not here doing this and this, by the way, Mila Aldridge, what's her name? Something Aldridge, Mr. Aldridge. I forget her, but she's I think she's like a PR person or something for somebody knows exactly who this is for sure. But definitely all people who so this image is supposed to be looking like these are his parents, right? And he's remembering an image of him having, a birthday. This is not how our cakes were or the image at the Int Ranch at all. It was a bunch of kids sitting at a table, like yelling and screaming, "Can I have some? Do I get some? Do I get some?" And then here he's like remembering an image when he's playing with a fire truck. That's him. Yeah. He's like sad and he's remembering these images. Right.
Emily is asking, is it Mariette Lindstein's son?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. John Lindstein. Exactly.
Okay. And Nora is saying it's either Michael Lewis or David Pettit as the dad.
Oh, okay. Interesting. David Pettit, maybe. I don't know. But yeah, but what I'm saying is they had people in this. So that was, what was that? That was page 6? No.
Page 6.
Yeah.
We were
yes. Okay.
So yeah, it goes down. Do you have any notes specifically on here, SP Chef, that you want to bring up or mention?
No, not really.
Okay.
My next notes would be on page 8.
Okay. I just want to read this one.
Sure.
The child who is under constraint, shepherded, handled, controlled, has a very bad anxiety postulated. See, so they're like describing these images, like the reactive mind bullshit and all that. But postulated means that you decided to pull that in. You decided at some point, as a thetan that because you have full control and power of everything around you. So somehow you pulled that in and you did that because at one point you actually postulated, you wanted it to happen.
Yeah. And this can happen consciously. Which is a very a theta thing to do if you consciously postulate for something, but it happens also unconsciously. Like for example, you can say, "Oh, I'd never want to, I don't know, like for example, I hate always having to walk to work, for example, and unconsciously you made a postulate, and then you go into a car crash and you break both of your legs or whatever, and now you can't walk anymore, and that's because you had that thought because that was a postulate. Well, it could be, not necessarily, but it can be put like in that sort of way, like in this sort of weird scenario. So it can happen very unconsciously.
Yeah, and they also later bring up the whole postulate thing, like connected when you go more and more up the bridge, all you're doing is like auditing these postulates and then that you created or things that you created without realizing you created them. And then it starts with your reactive mind, and then you start auditing other thetans that are attached to you, their postulates and their things. That's what all the OT levels and all that crap is about. So you're just in this big fucking dumpster of mind shit, bullshit, mind control. And you're just like auditing yourself and like doing all these things that you think are going to give you spiritual freedom. And it's like literally making you an insane person. Okay. Yeah. What was it? Oh yeah. So yeah, I just thought that was weird. I was like, what does that say? The child who is under constraint, shepherded, handled, controlled, has a very bad anxiety postulated. His parents are survival entities. They mean food, clothing, shelter, affection. This means he wants to be near them. He wants to love them, naturally being their child. But on the other hand, his parents are non-survival entities. His whole being and life depends on his rights to use his own decision about his movements and his possessions and his body. Parents seek to interrupt this out of the mistaken idea that a child is an idiot who won't learn unless controlled. So he has to fight shy, to fight against, to annoy and harass an enemy. It's like, how do you know a child has to do all that? Like, where do you get your knowledge from, L. Ron Hubbard?
Yeah.
Here's an anxiety. I love them dearly. I also need them, but they mean an interruption of my ability, my mind, my potential life, what I am going to do. Okay, whatever. I can't do anymore. It's so gross. So yeah, that I was just saying a lot of these images, I remember them, and these are they're colorful images, I think, in the book, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, they're colored, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Oh, there's that quote there that says freedom for the child means freedom for you. The third paragraph. Yeah.
Right here. Freedom for the child means freedom for you. Abandoning the possessions of the child to their fate means eventual safety for the child's possessions. Wow. What? Okay, yeah. Okay, you said something on page. Oh, yeah. A child's right to contribute.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have no right to deny your child the right to. Okay. See, this is all. I want people, like, as you're reading this, you're going, like you said, SP Chef, where you're like, yes, that makes sense. That makes sense. Of course. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's just what happened. But there's also things that don't add up. You think and then you realize, oh wait, he's literally reverse psychologically doing this so that you're doing this to your child. You're knowing, oh, if they're doing this, this is how we have to act or respond to it, you know. And then the child is going, oh, okay, my mom loves me because they're using the right policy, the right technology to be able to heal this upset or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
It's so it's kind of what he says about the reactive mind. The auditor and the preclear are both working to get rid of the reactive mind. You feel that as like a fucking child. You feel like, oh, the mom and my parents and me are both, you know, using Scientology to help us both and have a better family, to keep us closer and all this shit.
Yeah.
So reading something like the children's book was just a normal thing, especially in the Sea Org as a child. Okay, what did you want to say, SP Chef, on this one? This is page 8.
Sure.
What were your notes on it?
So I had right on the second quote, basically, a human being feels able and competent only so long as he is permitted to contribute as much or more than he has contributed to him. So let me read that again. A human being feels able and competent only so long as he is permitted to contribute as much or more than he has contributed to him. So basically, if something, so this is obviously talking about a child. So a child is being contributed to all the time by the parents, by the teacher, by the nurse, by the nanny, or whatever it is. And so the child will have this inner urge of wanting to contribute as well, wanting to give back. And if he's not permitted to do that, it frustrates him, basically. Yeah, so he needs to be able to give back as much as he's being given, or even more. It's in Scientology called an exchange, and the different kinds of exchanges that you can do. And
Yeah.
Lara, I think it was exchange 4, which is I think the
Yeah,
best
exchange
possible.
condition 4.
Yeah, this is the best possible condition, which is basically you give back more than you've actually received.
Like, yeah, way more with abundance. Yeah.
Yeah.
And how many are there? You said 4?
4 or 5. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if 4 was the final one.
No,
or...
4. Yeah.
Yeah.
Condition, exchange condition 1, exchange condition 2, exchange condition 3, exchange condition 4, which is another whole thing. See, there's side avenues that come along with all of this. It's like once you're part of this, I'm going to this, and again, you're always learning and like, oh well, I'm gonna get it soon. I'm looking for the solid. Oh, this makes sense now. This whole thing makes sense, but you never find it. You never get it. You're just doing the thing in the moment, which is keeping you away from seeing what the whole thing is. Like, you know, studying or auditing body thetans off of your body, like all this shit.
Yeah.
And then a little bit later on, it says, parents naturally contribute more to a child than the child contributes back. As soon as the child sees this, he becomes unhappy. He seeks to raise his contribution level. Failing, he gets angry at the contributing source. He begins to detest the parents. They try to override this revolt by contributing more. The child revolts more. It is a bad dwindling spiral because the end of it is that the child will go into apathy. So here's saying the reason why a child is misbehaving is because he's not allowed to give back. So you have to make sure that he works. The child must work. If the child is unhappy, it's because he cannot work. A child can only be happy if he works.
And they call it being out exchange. They're out exchange, and they're not. They just need to give back. So put them to work, make them do something that they're going to feel good that they're helping the group with.
Yeah, this whole out of exchange is such a very fundamental idea in Scientology. I remember as a child, I once saw a homeless person on the street, and he had a cup or a hat or whatever, and I just wanted to throw some coin, and my mother stopped me and said, no, because this is out of exchange. That like you're not allowed to actually give to poor people money because
you're gonna make them out exchange even more.
That's right. So they become even more operated. Yeah, they become even more operated and so forth because you're not giving them opportunity to give back.
Yes. Yeah. Correct. And you're encouraging the out ethics because
but she did, but to give credit to my mother, she did say it's okay if I give it to somebody who does something. So somebody like playing music or something like that. That's okay because that's an exchange.
The same thing. Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That's so weird. Like everything has to be for something. And I notice that a lot. I bring my friends that were raised in Scientology or were a cadet or a child or whatever. And some of them, I mean, for a while, there was times where people, I don't know, I couldn't just give them something. I would go travel and see my friend and we'd go have so much fun. And she was like, I feel bad. Like, I feel like, you're getting, and I'm like, stop.
Yeah,
it was so good to tell her like, hey, no, Scientology taught us that I can give you as much as I want. And you can just love is unconditional. Like it doesn't matter. Like I don't have to see you for 6 months. There's no like, and the sad thing though, also it was hard on friendships where people were good friends in the cult and they're going like, oh, well, I've done so much for you. I've been there for you the whole time. And you haven't given back to me or I feel like you're not helping me do this. And it's like, there was this implied, I gave you a gift, so you must give something back to me or you're out exchange. And now we're out of the cult. Why are you not giving me a gift? When I give you a gift, you should just know. Like people aren't separating like, oh no, that is actually Scientology taught child behavior.
Yeah, it's like keeping tabs. You can't even
receive a gift. Exactly.
Yeah, keeping tabs. But the thing is that something that I had to learn was that if you don't give a, let me try to phrase it in a way that makes sense. If you don't give a gift willingly given without expecting anything back, then it's not really a gift. It's a loan.
Right.
So if you give something because you want to give it and you just want to make the person happy, or you just want to help the person because you can see the person needs help or whatever. And there's just a a clear heart or whatever. You're just doing it because you want to help the person. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you do that and you are expecting or demanding something back for it, I mean, then that's not a gift. That's just a loan. That's something you do with a bank or whatever. It's a loan because you're expecting something back, and that's something I had to sort of teach myself in a way that it's okay. Like, for example, I really love giving gifts, but I also had to learn to receive gifts and be, oh, thank you very much, and so on and so forth. And also that if somebody gives me a gift, because, for example, I have a friend, he is, doing financially very well, and when it's my birthday, he gives me always very very nice things. And in the beginning, I felt very awful because I wasn't able to afford to give him anything equals to that.
Yeah.
But then, but I just, I talked to him about this as well, and he told me, look, I'm giving it to you because I enjoy giving you this gift. I know you like it, and so on and so forth. And it's just something you have to learn and or unlearn, rather, when you've
unlearn
like that.
Yeah. A lot of things unlearning, and that's also hard because when we do learn something, we hold on to it because it's giving, it gives us some sort of stability, or like, oh, this is how I deal with this problem. It's like a solution for this. And so you sometimes can't even see what the thing is that you have to unlearn that would make such a big difference. Or, I mean, why would we? It's literally like you're being trained to like hold your pinky, whatever, for, your whole life. And all of a sudden you go somewhere and you're holding you got to take time to undo that, while people are getting mad every time you're holding your pinky, you're holding your pinky, like, it's like, it takes time. You can't, and you have to be like, oh my God, catching yourself now, like, whatever it is. That's just a stupid example, but I'm just saying there's so much of how I'm still learning how I react to things, how I'm unlearning that. No, that's how people have taught you to do that. This is how I've been doing it. It seems to be a harsh way where I don't have to deal with things emotionally if I just do it this way. But it doesn't mean that that's the way that would accomplish the most love or the most freedom in that area or whatever,
Yeah.
So it's like, and also how I like how when I was like really learning what unconditional love is, that's hard. That's like, that's a hard thing.
I mean, I still don't get it, to be quite honest. Like, on certain levels, I don't get it.
I don't either. Like, also I feel like, so if I'm feeling this way and this is this, I mean, I don't know how to like really break it down, but like, I'm like, is this love, or is this like what, what the fuck is what is love for? But but also, even in the way of unconditional love, I'm like, so if I'm having a certain feeling about somebody doing something, is that unconditional love if I'm judging it? Is it unconditional love if I'm judging it? Or like, I really don't know. I don't know what unconditional means. I mean, I guess I do. I feel like I'm supposed to love them even if I feel anger, or in my eyes, sometimes I feel like I don't love them.
Yeah.
And what do you, when do we have unconditional love for something?
Yeah.
Like, when do you have unconditional love for something? I think you can only have unconditional love for something if they're your child. Like, and I think that's a demand. Is that weird? Like, I just kind of put that out in words. I feel that as the only time you can really have unconditional love, in my eyes, because I feel, well, that's not true. I do have some very fucking good friends that I have unconditional love for, I guess. It's just weird. I feel like in my heart, I feel like a mother to a child. Obviously, there's not mothers to children who have been really bad mothers. But I'm just saying, to me, the understanding of unconditional love, like God love, like unconditional, like no matter what happens, that idea, it seems like would be like the connection of a mother and their child, like really loving each other. or being super close. I feel like even if I was angry at my child, I would still have to be there for them and nourish them and whatever, whether I liked it or not. Whereas if I was in a relationship or anything, or I had a friend who was taking it too far, or was just putting me down or cutting me off, whatever it was, there's a way where I can be like, okay, I'm not going to be around them. But isn't that still unconditional love because you're going where the love is by separating? I don't know. I literally don't know what unconditional love is in certain terms, other than what my idea is. Idea for sure, because I don't feel like I've gotten that really from my mother physically, but unconditional love in terms of thinking that the idea that my mother loves me no matter how suppressive I am or whatever the fuck in her mind, that to me, even if she can't talk to me, even I still believe that a mother and their child still have that unconditional love, no matter what. And a father. I mean this in somebody who's literally the DNA connect. I have no idea though, because I just have no walls to have, solid examples from.
Yeah, I think you can have unconditional love until you just don't anymore, basically.
Really, not like me and SP Chef. Apparently, we're like, no, we don't know.
No, I mean, I get what you mean, Lara. I mean, for me, when I heard, as an adult, unconditional love, what the hell are you talking about? I got to understand that this is this connection of a mother to their child, and it's not necessarily from the child to the mother, not necessarily, but it's very strong between the mother and the child.
Correct. The love exactly.
That's how I was sort of told and got to understand what that means. And I think it also means that even if there is a period of time, like for example, I have now with my genetical mother, I haven't talked to her for a decade. I haven't seen her for about just as long as that. I think once everything is over, like there's this unconditional love is a string that can never be broken, no matter how many things are on top of it, and you cannot see it. It's always there. And I think once all of the shit is removed, you will find the string is still there. It might be a little dirty, but it's still there. It doesn't snap. This thing, it doesn't snap. I mean, that's how I see it. The string that is always there. And I think even if it's next year, in 10 years, in 20 years, or in 30 years, whenever it is that my mother will get out, and because I do think everybody will eventually get out, in one way or another, that we can still, dig up the string and clean it up. And because I think this is something that is very particular between a mother and a child. At least that's how I understood what it means.
Right.
But I do believe also in the idea that you have that with the your own family that you make. When you lose family because you get kicked out or whatever. I also think it's a skill learned early in our lives, usually given to us by a parent or elders connected to us. Sure. Yeah. To also be just told that we are always here for you, no matter what happens, and so on and so forth. And there's no condition attached to the love, which of course in Scientology there's always conditions attached to the love received by your parents. At least that was always my experience, that you're only a good child if you do the courses, you do enough completion points, you don't embarrass your parents, and so on and so forth. And so yeah. Anyway.
And you're going up the bridge. They're always
and you're going up the bridge, of course.
Yeah. Wow. TRs and objectives. I'm so proud of you. My own mother audited me on the TRs and objectives. So that's why I always make the jokes about, wait, are you my auditor? Is the person in the front of the cover the parent's child, or is that the father auditing the child? Are they giving the child a locational? Like I would always be like, what are they doing walking in the sun and they look so happy? Is their needle floating?
Yeah.
But your parents or your mothers, they are still there. They are just in it's like a deep hypnosis, basically.
Yeah.
It's the continuous brainwashing that is like, it's just keeping piling on the blocks, like you said, on that string.
And that's also why I feel like the unconditional love thing, if that's a thing, I feel like if there's a real like that, like a biological like DNA connection there, which, you know, whatever, science. But I feel like there's a reason that, like you said, I would have interest in cleaning up the string and like kind of being like, look, mom, I don't care if you get out of the Sea Org, like learn all of this, you know, like Rosemary is such a good example. Mike Brown's mother. It's like, I would give a year for you to be out. There's some deep, long string connection that if I can open my mother's eyes to all this, it feels like it will heal something with all of us. You know, not even just my mother, but my father as well. It feels like these will be the things that will open up this, like, you know, releasing of all of this long, unhealthy crap that is like the L. Ron Hubbard cord of like love, like this, you know, is just being like leached on by all of these datums and ideas that you can't separate from your own.
Totally.
That string. I like that analogy. Okay, should we bring this back? We'll finish up a little bit here.
Sure.
Right? Yeah, so I want to reread that. Is that okay?
Yeah, of course.
This quotes, the one that we have here. Parents naturally contribute more to a child than the child contributes back. As soon as the child sees this, he becomes unhappy. I can't believe that he would even write something like that. He seeks to raise his contribution level. Failing, he gets angry at the contributing source. He begins to detest his parents. They try to override his revolt by contributing more. The child revolts more. It is a bad dwindling spiral because the end of it is that the child will go into apathy. So apathy is a level on the tone scale. See how there's just always something leading into the next thing. It's just always, you can't finish a motherfucking sentence. I mean, an idea or a thing. So these are all just ideas. And I remember they'd just be like, okay, we're taking this excerpt out, like right here. A baby contributes by trying to make you smile. You see? So then they'll take a child and they'll be like, you know, try to come up tone, smile a little bit. And
exactly.
Like, they're always using things where you then go on a course like this and you have to train with they're like molding you, they're grooming you, training you, putting in your uniforms. This is how far away you need to sit. This is how you must feel when you're done. They're grooming you to normalize all these behaviors that when you're reading and you're like, wait, that's not even a true statement, you know? A baby contributes by trying to make you smile. A baby doesn't, I don't believe, knows that there's this idea that a baby is trying to contribute to the mother's love. Like this idea that L. Ron Hubbard is so disconnected from what real unconditional love is like he just says the crappiest things that are just like, what do you mean by that? That sounds so dry and like non-love like. But we just had to read this shit all the fucking times. And then, of course, the adults and the supervisors were always, enforcing this on us. Yeah. The baby will show off because remember, a baby knows what they're doing, right? Because they're already being rebellious and revenging, in the womb. They're so, responsible at this time. They know what they're doing in the womb.
When does the life start in terms of Scientology? When does the soul take over the fetus?
I don't know, SP Chef. I've been told different things. I mean, I've been told, for example, that when you pass away, you need to go to a hospital, and then you need to go to the ward where the children get born. Now, following that logic, it means the spirit only enters the baby's body right before birth, which then, of course, doesn't make sense that there should be any engrams from the time that you are in the belly, right? So that doesn't make sense. So just following the logical conclusion, and I know this is a stretch in Scientology trying to do anything logical, but because there are examples where Hubbard talks about, there's a book that he wrote that I read as a child and I thought it was fascinating. I think it's called like Have You Lived Before This Life? And it is really weird, scary cover, a blue cover with like a skeleton with a scythe in a graveyard. It was like drawn. It was a drawn thing. It was very scary. And anyway, there are several examples of people recounting the moment of conception. So the moment that they were just a clump of basically cells, and it wasn't even like defined as a fetus, as a baby or whatever yet. Like that, they can remember that.
Yep.
So I think it's really just from the moment of conception. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's a whole bunch of thetans hanging around in freshly married, I don't know, bedroom.
Well, what about
sort of waiting for it?
What about before the thetan enters or has the postulate to enter the mom, right? Or to go to be the mom, to be the child of the mother.
Right.
There's a whole thing that's what the whole past life thing is. That's where these people outside Blue Building are walking with their suitcases, literally auditing these like postulates and these thetans, these extra body thetans off of their bodies or out of their lives so that it can clear up their spine cancer. And that's why they're walking across the street so crippled and fucking like almost about to die, because they have to do all of this auditing as quick as they can before they drop their body. That's what they call it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking also about the abortions. Like that would be a very traumatic past life experience if you know, you just spend a little time in the uterus and then you were aborted.
Sure there are I'm sure there are Scientology fake ass auditors who have trained, like who have literally listened to people going through a whole like that a lot. And also not only that, a lot of that from this lifetime happening from Sea Org members doing that. But that's they really signed it, like in any of these Scientology books, Dianetics, any of these things, you're always gonna hear, if you read, they have these engrams or these stories of past life. It's all part of this reactive mind. It's all part of anytime you're auditing and doing that, you're auditing these images. You're auditing these images of the reactive mind, right? That's clearing the planet. That's the whole thing. So you always have this idea that, I'm allowing my bank to come in, so I need to knock it off, which was crazy because I'm going to move this out of the way. Yeah. But
was Samuel, when you were saying this, have you lived this life before? Is that one of the introductory courses?
No, this was no, it wouldn't. You wouldn't have given this to somebody who's just joined Scientology. This was one of those weird niche books. I don't know in what context it came out. I always felt like it had something to do with Dianetics, because then obviously when Hubbard started doing Dianetics, and when you read Dianetics, the one from 1950, the original one, he never mentions past lives, because at that point that wasn't discovered, right? So this happened later on. And then, so I always thought, well, this is basically, because I was reading, I read it, and in the beginning there's an introduction to it, and I think in the introduction it sort of says something along the lines of, this is a collection of stories from auditing experiences where people talk about doing Dianetics or whatever, and then they can recall different past lives. And in the beginning we ignored that. We acknowledged it, but we didn't get into it. But then it happened so often, we couldn't ignore it anymore. And so we decided to actually audit it, and we discovered many truths and whatever, because they were able to say details about people that, apparently were true, but it never actually gives you any, like, okay, he says he was Peter Jones, born 1792, died 1853. And we found his grave. It never said anything like that, but it did say that, there was enough there to determine that it must be true. And so this book was written with all of these different stories.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know where it lines on the, I mean, I don't even know if it,
but even the fact that even the OT phenomenons that they would put in the magazines, and you'd be like, let's go to the back. And the idea that they are already, without saying it, saying when you get to OT levels, you're going to be doing past life stuff. They are saying it without saying it. And that already is we've normalized that being in Scientology and even
completely
researching it and talking about it. That alone is so insane to think.
Yeah. I actually
what are you fucking doing? What?
I actually knew an auditor in St. Hill. Her name was Regine. She was from Germany, from Bavaria.
I feel like these names, I feel like I know because I feel like they might have gone to Flag for training for like 6 months and they go back and I'm like, why do all these names sound so familiar? And they're being CS'd or trained by the people that I was working with. So later I'm like, oh, Andreas, you know, whatever trained you, or that, oh, you were part of the CS, whatever. It's just so yeah, when you say names, I'm like, dude, oh, why does that ring a freaking weird ding ding? Or when they go up for their certs, like they and
and anyway, I was just gonna mention that Regina once told me, she said, well, obviously, because she, her and I, we had a special kind of friendship because we both love classical music, and she had her own car. She was one of those people who actually had a car, and so she could go home at you know, at the time that she wanted to, in the sense of, you know, once she did all of her auditing, and then she would get me. She would go down to the stables, which is where we would cook the food. I mean, this happened like maybe once a week or so, sometimes a couple of weeks. It didn't ever happen, but every once in a while she would come down and she would pick me up, and then we would drive home and we would take the longer route, and then we would listen to classical music and we sort of talk about it and so on and so forth. So anyway, and she basically said, oh my God, Sam, you won't believe it. I just audited somebody, but you know, I'm not going to tell you who it is because of course she's not allowed to say, but he was Mozart in the past life. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, who died in 1791. And she was really like, she wasn't like, oh my God, listen to this crazy story, like listen to this bitch. No, it was like, oh my God, I just met Mozart. She was like genuinely like, oh, like that, you know. And
almost like meeting a celebrity.
Yeah,
almost.
Literally.
Yeah.
Well, it was.
Yeah. And I'm just so curious to know how many auditors have had people say, oh, I was Mozart. Like, how many people will have said that, you know?
Yeah, or how many
because
people...
you know, funny enough, you're never a chambermaid, you're never a peasant, you know, you're always like Mozart, Napoleon, you're always someone like who was actually known in history. Because then you can give some information about the person, because you obviously have some information about that person. You can say, oh yeah, French person, and so, oh yeah, Napoleon. Oh yeah, wow. Oh, your needle is floating, you know, in the name of Napoleon or whatever. Oh, so I must have been Napoleon, you know.
Yeah.
But you know, you were never somebody who was not recorded in history. You know, that's the funny thing.
And you know what is even more fucking psychologically fucked is that there would be people who would know, who had a higher rank, like the CSs and executives who were able to be like, well, what's going on with this auditing thing or whatever.
Right.
They knew what was going on, and so they would be able to manipulate people by being like, oh, so and so is going to sit in the front seats in graduation, and they would put him they put him in positions where they think like, oh, this it literally makes the person, it validates the person's idea or whatever that they're making up in session or whatever the fuck is going on. It's not just one person, but like you're getting a certificate at graduation, and then you must tell your win. You can't just get a cert. You have to have major VGIs, there's somebody in there. VGIs, very good indicator wins that you have achieved the result of this step. Yeah. Whether it's even like a major step, like the purification rundown as a major lower step, right? Everybody does the purification rundown. You can't fucking move forward without doing the fucking purification rundown, even as children. So it's like, it's all about the group, again, making it reasonable that it's so normal that a child is sweating and getting all this fucking quote drugs and all these radiation and all this shit out of this little body that hasn't even been on earth that long to be able to have to be doing the purification. But because it's looked upon that children, it's amazing that a smaller body is already clear, you know. They're like it's just everybody acknowledging and impinging and saying, yes, this is correct. Look at everybody's having these fake fucking wins, and everybody's literally like validating that fake, what is it, release or endorphin?
This fake reality, and it's all it's all acting, in the sense it's all a stage. Everybody is just pretending. Everybody's VGI, always smiling, because you know you're not allowed to look a certain way. You always have to be very happy, because if you're not happy, it means you're not happy with Scientology, because you're doing Scientology all the time. So obviously, you know, so you have to be always very happy.
If you're not happy with Scientology, it means that your low indicators, your what is it, BGIs, bad indicators, and so BIs, you're BIs. So which means that you shouldn't be acting, you shouldn't be allowing these emotional images to be splooged out onto the public lines, the PR lines, right? That's what they call them. And that you should be saving it. So no case on post on your job, and that you should be saving these nasty, disgusting behaviors for when you're in session behind a closed door, where you're being filmed and being documented. And they're going, we're gonna really keep track of this now. How is he acting to this question, and why is he up? Ooh, he just found out his mother died. We can use this against him as well. Like there's so much monitoring, and literally we're little rats to Scientologists, using like they're using us to figure out how to manipulate more and more and more. Yeah.
And as you said just a moment ago, when you were talking about children doing the purification program or any other of these major courses, because they're being so, like, there's so much love bombing, there's so much you get so much appreciation by not only your parents, but these random people, but also people you look up to, seniors or whatever. You do not allow yourself to have doubts. And if you have any doubts, you just suppress it. You don't allow yourself to question it, because the reason why you do all of these things, in part at least, is to make your parents happy, to make them proud of you, right? Or to make your senior proud of you, or whatever it is. You don't really think about what it actually does, the course, what it's supposed to be doing. So you're just doing as the reaction of, you know, whatever the reaction, the positive reaction is there, you're just doing it to get that, to basically get that. And it does not, you don't allow yourself to actually look at it in any sort of critical way or whatever, because if you were to do that,
you're not allowed to. You're not allowed to look at it in a critical way.
Yeah. Well,
you cannot.
As well,
that's
if
your
you grow up
way.
in it, plus as well, if you grow up in it, you don't learn that.
Things. Right, right.
You don't learn how to do that. Why
and
would
anytime
you
anytime you question it, it's like, what are you doing? And the only way you know you're doing something wrong is because of the reaction you're getting from an adult or somebody, or even your own parents. That's where the manipulation comes in.
True.
Oh my God. Okay, so we are on page 8. Do you have any other notes on page 8, by the way?
No, page 8 was fine.
Okay, cool. I feel like maybe we could take a break on page 8 and run to some comments and stuff, or what? What are you feeling?
Sure. No, because this is the chapter, A Child's Right to Communicate.
Yes. That's 9, right? That's 9.
No, that's page 8. That's page 8, which starts this little chapter, a child's right to contribute. Excuse me. A child's right to contribute.
Okay, yeah.
That's part. That's page 8, and then I would have on page 10, on the last page of that chapter, just have a little thing. I'll just read that out, and then that chapter is finished, and then maybe we can do another video where we continue from that chapter onwards.
Exactly. So let's do. So you want to start here on a child's right to contribute, or on 10?
No, on page 10.
Okay, a family is a group with the common goal of group survival. Oh my God. Ugh. I remember my mom reading this to me. Like, this is, why we're all in this together, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
so
That was very Tom Cruise-like.
Sorry. You're either in or you're out. So do you want it on 9 or 10? Or no?
Well, we can read that part of page 9, what you just read, a family, because that is also quite relevant.
Okay, perfect. So it's. Do you want to read it? I can read it, or you can read it, or Mirjam can read it. Whatever you guys want.
Lara, would you like to read it?
I feel like I like hearing Samuel read it, because I like how it's nice to my ears. It sounds like different than what I'm normally hearing. So I'm like, oh, good. I get to enjoy it. And then I'm also hearing it. It makes me hear it in a different way. Like I'm able to like see it in a different view. And I'm like, what? He actually fucking said, L. Ron Hubbard says this? What? because I'm not just reading it like programmed in my brain. Like a family is a group. I always hear my mom or my dad reading it to me. That's what's even worse.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. A family is a group with a common goal of group survival and advancement. The child not allowed to contribute or failing to understand the goals and working principle of family life is cast adrift from the family. He is shown he is not part of the family because he can't contribute. So he becomes anti-family. The first step on the road of being antisocial. You see, I was an antisocial child. He spills milk and annoys your guests and yells outside your window in play. He'll even get sick just to make you work. He is shown to be nothing but being shown that he isn't powerful enough to contribute. So this is again trying to explain why a child misbehaves. Even like a child doesn't get just sick. He's making himself sick purposely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because he's not permitted to contribute. And in only as... And this
Wait, can I just pause you right there?
No.
That is one of the key reasons why when we were sick as children from working so hard in the fucking desert under all crazy conditions, raining, pouring, cold desert, whatever the conditions, bleach, as you said, dishes, whatever was going on. When we got sick, they would always be like, well, what can you do? You know what? They would always be saying like, well, if you're sick in isolation, then you need to be cleaning or doing something productive. While you're in isolation instead of healing and sleeping.
Yeah.
Like they're like, okay, if you're not sleeping, then work. Yeah, you gotta give, because you seem to have pulled this in. So you have to give out, for the beginning of this, before we get you in session and pull your evil crimes and all the thetans attached to you. We're just gonna make sure that you just keep yourself busy and stay outward while you're supposed to be healing. So we were working while we were in isolation as children, feeling guilty if we were sleeping too long, feeling guilty if we ate too much of the yogurt because somebody else only got a certain amount, like not, wasting the food. We felt bad because we were so nauseous. We didn't want to eat. And we're like, well, the food's there. And so then you'd see it and I'd be like, oh God, I feel bad. Now the eggs are all soggy and disgusting. And I could have given that to one of the other kids that wanted it. But I thought maybe I would want it later and I would regret it, because then, you know what I mean? Like there's so much control in even being sick in this. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, totally.
I thought you were supposed to be in isolation in a room when you're sick.
With other sick people. So there's other Sea Org members and Scientologists in the dorms or in the apartment building that's converted into a basically like 4 people in each room in the apartment building. So it's considered a dorm. But that's their isolation until their temperature is gone. That's one thing. Like, they don't have a fever, like they still could be sick even, and they're like, well, we need to get them back on post. There's no it's just like, get it out of the body. There's no like, let us heal you. Here's all this plant, beautiful turmeric. Maybe David Miscavige gets that shit. I do remember he getting some fucking fancy, and I was like, oh, it looks like David Miscavige is a little under the weather. Couldn't say he was PTS or getting sick. There must be SP. Oh, that's because he's dealing with SPs all the time.
Right. Obviously. Yeah.
But yeah, so getting sick and all that was so. Anyways, yeah, go ahead. Yeah. It reminded me of.
Yeah, totally. So that was that part I wanted to read. And then I had on page 10 another little note.
He'll even get sick just to make you work. He is shown to be nothing by being shown that he isn't powerful enough to contribute. How disgusting is that? He'll even get sick just to make you. This is how L. Ron Hubbard literally treats. This is why adults think that like people who are kids or something in Sea Org, they're like, oh, they're just dramatizing. Oh, look at what they're doing. They're doing all this to get attention. They just want sympathy. Literally, they use this all the time. So to read this, it's like he'll spill the milk, right? He'll do things just to get attention. He'll even get sick just to make you work. He is shown to be nothing but being shown. So like just us being sick is actually our fault, and now we're doing it to get attention. And And by not, and then he says, and he's shown to be nothing by being shown that he isn't powerful enough to want to help and suck up to the fucking slavery that he's already doing. She's doing. So he says he.
Yeah, totally.
It's so insane. It's like literal reverse psychology mindfuck. Okay, so you said number 10?
Sure.
Here we go. Boom. The child has a duty toward you. God dang it. Right there.
That's right. The child has a duty towards you. He has to be able to take care of you. Not an illusion that he is, but actually. And you have to have patience to allow yourself to be cared for sloppily until by sheer experience itself, not by your directions, he learns how to do it well. Care for the child? Nonsense. He's probably got a better grasp of immediate situation than you have. You beaten up adult. Only when he's almost psychotic with aberration will a child be an accident prone. So, I mean, this is another bit where I'm like, oh my God. I mean,
that's disgusting. This whole thing is disgusting.
Yeah, it's
I actually just go like this.
So also the beginning where it says the child has a duty towards you. He has to be able to take care of you. Not an illusion that he is, but actually. And you have to have patience to allow yourself to be cared for sloppily until by sheer experience itself, not by your directions, he learns how to do it well. So in other words, if you were in a situation where you need help, you need to just let the child do whatever he thinks or she thinks is the best possible thing without telling the child what to do.
Or that it's wrong or right, or that you like it or not. Let them go through their mistakes.
They have to just figure it out.
It's all about them just want.
Yeah, they just have to figure it out, and you're not allowed to direct the child at all. I mean, this is an attitude you can have. Like I would have this attitude if I'm in the kitchen and I get a new cook, and he has this experience in cooking. He's been working for 15 years. And I get him there. I'm like, okay, I need this, and this done. Go. I'm not going to tell him how to do it because he should be able to know these basics. And then if I see something that's not quite right, I will correct him. I mean, this is how he sort of is saying about like a small child. It's just, it's supposed to be able to know what to do. And they have to keep doing it until just by sheer experience, they just suddenly get it right.
Yeah.
So
and it reminds me of so many mixed things, like when I would wake up early just to make my mom like fruit salad at her own dorm or her apartment building that, you know, had two other couples in one apartment building. But I would wake up and like, and I always feel like, did she know I was doing that? Is she enforcing this kind of behavior where it's like, oh, I'm just going to let her do it because that's so loving? Or like, these are the things where I knew she loved it. So I wanted to do it to know that like, I made sure that she knew that I only did it because I love her. Right.
But then are you did you sort of question it in the sense of she knows it, or does she think you're only doing it to be in exchange?
Or am I doing it exactly? Or am I doing it because I've been out ethics in the past or in the womb that now I'm making up, and now
making up the damage.
I am, and now I'm taking care of my parents, as he says. The child has a duty toward you, right?
Yeah.
The child has a duty toward. That's so fucking weird. That's so weird to me that L. Ron Hubbard just openly can just say, yes, the child has a duty toward you. Fact. Period. Child does not have any fucking duty toward you. As a parent, no, they do not. Actually, that's literally the worst, stupidest statement ever.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
What would this mean in practice? Like, when would this be applied?
I mean, whatever it is that. So let's say you're at home, and you as a mother, you're preparing dinner, for example, and there's a whole bunch of things going on, and the child is like, okay, I want to help you. Clearly, there's lots to do. And then the mother says, okay, I need you to set up the table. And the child has never done that. He doesn't know where the cutlery is. He doesn't know where the glasses are or anything like that. And she's not allowed to tell him how to do it or what to do. He needs to figure it out himself. I mean, it literally says this. It says, and And you have to have patience to allow yourself to be cared for sloppily until by sheer experience itself, not by your directions, he learns how to do it well. So you're not allowed to give him any directions. You're not allowed to say, oh, look, darling, the cutlery is over here or whatever. No, he just needs to figure it out himself until whatever. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. You know, I don't know what he was thinking by saying that. I mean, like, yeah. Anyway,
Caroline is saying that I think he hated children.
Wow.
That's what I mean. I'm like, is this like, this is how you treated your own children. So you probably like this is just like Scientology was just your cover up to abuse children mentally, physically without making it so obvious.
Yeah.
And this, you're well and enjoy. It says you're well and enjoyed life because you aren't owned. You're well and enjoyed life because what? Oh, you're well and enjoy life.
Yeah.
Because you aren't owned.
Yeah. And I think what he means by that is he's basically trying to say that when you're a child, you're being owned by your parents. However, to get out of the cycle of being owned is by contributing. So you give something back and then there's no out of exchange. So, you know, I think that's what he's trying to say. So
totally. I'm forgetting about that concept. Like it's all the time. It's all the time. You're completely out exchange. You're doing something's out exchange. If you want to leave, it's the same concept. If you want to blow or leave the family or whatever, it's because you're committing overts or you're doing something negative. So again, you need to get your exchange in, make up the damage, start producing, give.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it was just constantly give all your energy, no matter what it is. And if there's any reason your energy is at all going anywhere else, it's going to be the most obvious thing, especially for security and Sea Org members who are being watched on cameras 24/7 and getting auditing and know how their children thinks and all of that. Like they know where their non-Scientology family members are, even if the non-Scientology family members aren't even talking to them. Like they just have everything controlled, not only about the children, but about the adults and the parents that are in there that run and use this whole system to control children. We haven't even gotten through this book. We're only on this booklet. It's not even like a bigger Scientology thing. This is just a section out of the Scientology handbook that just has all this garbage. So we had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Good points. Okay. Well, anything else on these? Or should we just end it on the 10?
I would say we'll end it on 10 because that's also right at the end of that particular chapter.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Boom
Is there anything you agree there?
I mean, there were little bits and pieces where I'm like, yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, okay, yeah, I get that. You know, for example, here's a little bit where he talks about explaining to a child how life works. Basically, you know, like why do you have the clothes that you have? You know, where does the money come from? And trying to explain that sort of thing so the child can understand that things don't just grow or just fall out of the sky, you know, things like that. And he writes here, for example, what is the source of his allowance? How come there's food, clothes, a clean house, a car? Daddy works. He expends hours and brains and brawn, and for this he gets money. The money handed over at a store buys food. A car is cared for because of money scarcity. A calm house and care of daddy means daddy works better, and that means food and clothes and cars. So he just talks about generally explaining to a child where things come from. And I remember my mother doing that, and I like that. And I remember I like going, I mean, maybe it's just because I end up being a bender, but I liked going with her shopping. And her showing me.
I loved it too. I love that's what I'm saying. I have very sadly, I have very strong memories of little things that were that still seem so important to me. Like the Clinique lipstick that my mom would put on, and she would, and it was just like I don't know why there was just so many things. Oh, I like that. I want to have that or whatever. Like, yeah. So even the shopping things, or I was obsessed with wanting to see my mom's ballet pictures. She was like, I don't know, I'll show you a few,
Was
but
she a
not
ballet
now.
dancer?
She was a ballet dancer before she joined Scientology, Oregon, Canada.
Oh, wow.
She was a professional ballet dancer.
Yeah, my stepmother was also. I actually have a pair of ballet shoes here.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Ballet shoes are intense, especially ones that have been used. You're like, whoa.
Yeah.
The energy in them. But yeah, so I've always had this like obsession with my mom's ballet pictures, and like her life. Oh, that wasn't, I didn't know how to say it now, how I say it, but like I was imagining like what my mom's life in the outside world. These are my mom's, and she saw that in my eyes. I know she did. She saw that I would just light up when I would be like, this is my God. Like something in me, it just lit something in me. And I think she was not, this is kind of fucked up, and in a fucked up way, she was controlling that, even that, because but that she was controlling that a little bit in a fucked up way, to not get me to have, like, she wouldn't want to get in trouble for me wanting to lead the Sea Org because I was so infatuated by her ballet pictures, because they did something to me that I wanted to go dance and create and do art, which it did do. I just didn't have that. I just had no idea that that's why I was so infatuated with my mom's ballet pictures. But now I understand why she was trying to hide them and take them away from me. Where years before I was always upset, like so upset. Why couldn't she just give me that even? Why couldn't she just let me see the pic? What the fuck was that? When I was like wondering what this anger was toward my mom. And that was one of the things I was like, oh, well, she couldn't give them to me because I would have asked her so many questions. And how come I can't do this, Mom? Why can't I go there? Can I go to that school you went to? You were a professional. You went to school for this. You went to New York. You were flown. Like, I'm like, what? I didn't fucking know about any of that. And there was a reason why. Like, so even though it was psychologically damaging, it was.
May I just ask, when was she a ballet dancer? In the 70s?
Yeah, and early. Like she's 73 right now, maybe.
Because my stepmother, she was one of the 4 primary dancers in the National Ballet, and she went to New York twice.
No. How old is she?
She was born 49, so she'll be
oh my God,
around the same age as your mom. So I'm just thinking, because she was
the lead. She was a lead dancer. She was a head dancer.
She was one of the 4 principal dancers of the National Ballet. And so I think, I'm just thinking, like, wouldn't it be crazy if they actually met?
Epic pictures where she's in groups. So like it would make it like she's in groups of like 20 people doing the same. Obviously, my dream would have been to watch even video or something. So there could be some old video out there.
Maybe. I mean,
that would be epic,
I'm very lucky. I'm very lucky because there are actually videos, black and white videos on YouTube of my mother's. Because it's
what if my mom is in there?
You need to ask her if she knows Laura's mom.
I mean, I don't know.
They were flown to Williamsburg, the theater, and they were there.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'll see my stepmother next week on Saturday, and then I'll ask her about the 2 trips.
And her name,
where she went to.
Yeah, and she would have gone by Diane Mulholland.
Okay.
Her last name would have been Mulholland. Diane Jessie Mulholland. In fact, she goes by Jessie Mulholland. I think because I found out my mom and dad aren't together recently. They're officially, my dad is officially with some other woman.
Okay.
But so I think she's going by Jessie Diane Mulholland.
Okay.
So that people can't find her. If obviously I've been talking about her all over the internet. So
yeah.
So now I'm just gonna let you know my mother's name is Jessie Diane Mulholland Anderson, but it was Anderson and now it's back to Mulholland, which is so weird as a child, by the way, having the last name Anderson and then realizing, oh, that's been broken. I don't know. It's like a stupid thing, but it's like, wow, my mother's name is not Anderson.
Yeah.
And my name is my dad's. Like, it's so weird. Like, and I'm very much like Laura Anderson, Laura Megan Anderson. It's always, so now I'm like, oh, it's weird. I don't know. It's just a weird thing that just went on recently in the last few months where I was like, what if my name was Laura Megan Mulholland? You know, I don't know. Like, I was just like,
well, it could be if you wanted to, right?
No, it's just weird to know that, oh yeah, one of the things I thought about children whose parents divorce when they're young. I would have like struggled with that. Like, oh no, like, I don't know. It would have been weird. It's just a weird, uncomfortable thing. Like, I'm like, I felt uncomfortable to realize my mom doesn't carry Anderson behind her anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
We're not a family. What fucking family? Okay. So do you want to say anything else?
I don't know. Do you want to maybe
the ballet? We're going to find out about the ballet.
Yes.
Stuff.
I mean, that would be so amazing if our mothers dance together.
That would be
amazing. Yeah.
And there's a pretty big dance, I would say.
Yeah, she's got a lot of old little black and white pictures and things. And maybe one of them.
So do I.
You know, your mom might be on there. It'd be amazing. But, you know.
My mom was like obviously doing it as a child growing up. But like some of these pictures I've seen, she's like 21, 22, you know, 24, 25. And then the youngest one, I think she's probably like 18. So crazy.
Yeah.
So crazy. Okay, so let's go. Do you guys have any other questions, or do you see any questions that you want to answer really quick before I just do the start?
No.
To be honest, I didn't pay much attention.
Good. Okay, that's fine.
I get distracted by it.
I'm just going to pop these up. Thank you so much, Lupita T, 1990.
Thank you.
Very supportive and loving.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Haggis Basher, thank you so much. 10 Scientology Up North memberships. And again, thank you, Haggis Basher.
Wow.
We love your guys' support. All these little memberships. We really need it. How are you on your memberships? Do you do fun things? Are you up on all your perks and all that? Sending out your things?
I should do something funny, but I've been waiting for, the weather is a bit different here than in Los Angeles. So I promised to make some Copenhagen tour when when the weather gets a bit better over here. So I can do some members only videos with some other content.
Yeah, I can't believe that you can't. Is it the same for you as well, SP Chef, where you can't, there's like certain restrictions, like filming other
even
people?
Worse?
Oh, in Switzerland, yeah. I mean, Switzerland.
Is it worse?
It is. I think it is worse even than Denmark. I mean, you're not allowed to film anybody, like at all, on the streets. You have obviously, if you are, for example, a reporter and you're filming a scene, you're filming a building or whatever, then you're allowed, but only if you have the license for it, basically. Like as a random person, you're not allowed to film people intentionally. You cannot film them intentionally. You can maybe set up a camera that focuses on a building, but if somebody walks past and says, I don't want to be on this, you have to edit it. You have to blur the person out or whatever. Even, for example, in Switzerland on Google Maps, if you go on Google Maps and then you go on the street views, you will see buildings blurred out because people wrote, because in Switzerland, it's called, it's literally translated called spiritual possession. So there's a very strong laws on spiritual possession. So these are all things that are directly connected to you. So anything with your name, anything which shows where you live, possibly anything like that, you have a right to have it not public. So if on street views, when you go on Google Maps, you will find blurred houses and blurred things because people wrote to Google that this is not okay. We're in Switzerland. You're not allowed to do that. So yeah.
Wow,
that's
quite stricted. Yeah.
That's what I mean. So it's an honor really to have you guys and the work that you guys are doing online, even with whatever videoing you can do. That's why it's very appreciated. I literally was just like, I don't know what would everybody be doing if the laws were like that here in the US? So there's certain
and in the US, thank God you have I think is it the Second Amendment for free speech?
First Amendment.
Or the First Amendment, right?
Yeah,
so thank God you've got that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we don't have that.
Something else, right?
We don't have freedom of speech. We literally don't have that. Like it's not in our law.
Right.
It's like a moral thing. Like, okay, yeah, we all agree, more or less, freedom of speech, but it's not actually law, So
right. That's wild.
Yeah.
See? So we gotta appreciate what we do have. Which Cher, thank you. And thank you, Which Cher. She's been so like starting up her own thing where she's just like, I'm going up, I'm going to blue. She's just like, hey, it's just so cool. Like,
yeah, she's really cool, and she's not afraid of anything either. So I really love that. I've had the issue with the restraining order in Denmark. So they applied for one, and now they appealed for it. And because of that, I have very strict filming rules because I'm not allowed to film them. But they try to put people behind me, so I would get caught filming them.
Right. See, that's what I mean. They would just be doing all kinds of things that would just be like getting our videos tagged.
Yeah, exactly. So you need to be really
which makes it more important for us. Yeah, more important for Americans who know about all this, and for children that were in the cadet org and that were raised by Scientologists that were in the Sea Org and fucking had to go through all this, to be writing all these like detail, getting out and talking about it, even if it's not on YouTube, but like just doing it internally with the justice system, because we forget that the justice system at least gives us a chance where before we didn't have the chance. And the justice system gives us a chance to be able to get justice for this. And that justice actually will be the thing that orders Scientology to dismantle. Yeah. And to say, no more kids, you can't be training this. Get all these books out of here. Get all these brainwashing fucking calm course, the fucking all these children booklets. All this should be the fuck out. Children should not have anything to do with Scientology.
Yeah. But it's when the police arrives, I need to explain them that, it's not the people inside there. It's only the management who is asking, they are for prohibiting people to talk to us. I've been talking with a lot of people, but it's OSA and the security who is mandating the no communication policy.
Yeah,
they are redirecting
that's their tactic.
people.
That's their tactic. They're able to say, that's OSA will do anything. The security guards, when we say security is held under the control of OSA, so security or OSA, it's all the same shit.
Yes.
But OSA, the authority of Scientology's OSA, will be the one saying, do this, don't do that. Oh, good. The laws are this, so go behind the camera. We would, the intention is to get they very much know what they're doing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just proud of you guys. Lupita T says, Lara and SP Chef, darling, first of all, how did you approach peeling back the layers of this book? What was the idea? Idolized.
Yeah.
Oh, a book that was, I see. How did you approach peeling back the layers of this book that was idolized now as a true adult? I think that's what we're doing, is literally doing it, peeling.
Yeah, peeling it and analyzing it, and sort of, the last time I read this book was literally when I was 8-9 years old or whatever it was. Then I did the course. And then, that's the last time I read it completely. And then obviously when I was in the catalog, it would be always taken out and, used here and there or whatever. So now having read it, the thing again, as an adult, being outside of the SEOG, having had some life experience, as I said in the beginning of our chat, I was at the end, I was just frustrated by it, because again, there were little bits in there where I was like, yes, okay, good. Now, how about just stay right there? Don't wander off. Just stay there. Just stay right now. Okay, there he goes again, and just ruins it all. And and it was also like reading it, and then I would read a chapter, and then I would sort of think about it and sort of try to recall my experience with that. Like, okay, when I was misbehaving, how did my mother? How did the cadet I see? Hello, Scientology rundown. How did my mother, how did the cadet I see react? Did they do this as it said there? And trying to sort of analyze it. But I always do it, this sort of thing. My whole experience with Scientology, I always analyze it as though it happened to somebody else. I'm not able to connect it directly. It's not because I'm afraid of confronting the emotions that are attached to it. I don't think so. Or maybe it's happened I'm just doing it unconsciously. I'm just pretending this happens to somebody else, and I'm looking at the experience of that little boy over there, right, rather than my own experience, and I try to analyze it, I find it much easier to be able to shed the bullshit, basically, to be able to say, oh no, doesn't make any sense, because there's no emotional connection to that child over there.
Yes, I literally have to do that a lot, where I have to separate the emotion and say, is this okay or is this not okay? Does this seem normal as it is, or am I just used to this?
Right.
Like, and so that's helped me a lot. And then another thing is seeing it as a third person and not myself, because seeing it as myself confuses what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Because you go back into being a child and you mix up what was being told, what you were being told to make you believe what happened. And so you're mixing up what you think happened, instead of just going, oh my God, why was a man ever even in the woman's bathroom or the woman's dorm when there was anybody with boobs with their shirt off, like, ever? Why was that fucking normal? Like, just so many things where I'm like, and then when you go, imagine that being your daughter or somebody you really care about, you would literally be like, what is going on? All of a sudden the rage comes in. And so
totally. I actually had to do something like that, as you talk about, because otherwise when I'm assuming this is similar with you, Lara, that if I think about my past, I'm minimizing what happened, because it was my life. So I just experienced it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what I had to do is imagine that scenario happening to somebody I know, to a friend. How would I feel about it? And then I get annoyed and outraged, and then I know, okay, that wasn't okay. Like, this sort of way of looking at it helps me, because I would say, oh, it's okay, it wasn't that bad, and so on and so forth. But if it happens to somebody else, I can see then, how bad it was, or whatever it was,
Yeah, that's literally how I cope with things. And then when I'm at a time where I can be like, okay, let's really break this down. And then as I'm breaking it down, it doesn't really hit me emotionally until randomly, where I'm just like, like, what? That's why I was so angry in this moment, when we're specifically talking about like an adult fucking dragging me, or doing, like, when I'm in the middle of like feeling like, what made me so angry? Why couldn't I leave? What was going on? Then it's like a whole different, it's a whole different feeling until I make it my emotion. And then I can cry, I can be angry, I can be like, what the fuck? And then it feels a little bit better later when you're again looking at it without the emotions. It feels emotionally better to just understand what was actually going on.
Sure. Yeah.
It's a lot, and we're only on page 10, and we didn't even really read all of the things, but at least people can have it. Bianca, so good to see you in here, by the way.
Yeah, and Balazs is here. Yeah, he just wrote a very nice comment there. I don't know if you can pick it up, Lara.
He's the one who has the best haircut. In my opinion.
It's our friend in the bottom, the latest comment there.
How do you say the name? How did you say?
Balazs.
That's how you say it?
Balazs, yeah.
Yes.
Balazs. Oh, Balazs. Pogani? Is that how you say Pogani? Anyways, this is very... I need to start traveling the world.
This is Elron Hopcult, if you ever heard of him. My friend in Denmark.
Oh, yes. I think I was in your chat when you guys were all out there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, good. Who's out there and who's... Oh, good. Subscribe.
Yes, Hopcult.
Hopcult. Yeah. Lara and Samuel, unfortunately, you did not have a great childhood, but you turned out freaking awesome. Or freaking awesome adults, didn't you? Yes. I'm getting there.
Yes.
Sometimes I'm awesome and sometimes I suck. And then I'm like, wow, I really suck right now.
Yeah, but that's the part of being adult. So
yeah.
Okay, so do you guys have anything to say? Does it not make you think about this, SP Chef, where whenever you say something, is there anything else you guys want to say? Do you not think about the ending the session when they're like, is there anything else you'd like to say or do before I end the session? And Bianca, wait, before I say that, Bianca, will you please email me, because I would love to do a live stream with you, and I would love to talk about all the hard times and also just random crap sec checking, leaving the Sea Org, all of that, where we were literally stuck in a room doing that. But what was I saying? I just forgot. Bianca,
Well,
Bianca.
Yeah, you were basically inviting Bianca to have a chat.
Yeah, I want to do a live. I want to do a live stream and let out all the emotions and be able to like open up. There's shit that I literally have chunk blanks of not what the fuck. Like, I don't know what the fuck happened.
Yeah.
I was in auditing rooms doing sec checking when I was leaving the Sea Org. They just had me on all these sec checks.
Yeah.
For the ranch, we're going to do a sec check that's just about all the crimes and the overts you committed at the ranch. And then we're going to do another sec check of just what, you know, all the stuff you did here in Florida and Clearwater and what you plan. Like, there's just so much sec checking. Because of that, like the actual physical harm that it literally is, you're constantly hypnotizing. You're just constantly in your mind and getting sessionable and vitamins for so long, every day for months. And you're just like, oh, and when you're not doing that, you're doing messed work, you're doing physical heavy work, or you're doing something where it's just repetitive. You're just constantly doing the same fucking routine.
Yeah.
And there's so much missing information that I don't remember. I'm like, and I get pieces it from listening to other channels and hearing other people's story. I'm like, oh my God, that's literally what the hell. Like, there's people's faces that I remember, and I'm like, but what was your position? Didn't you work with this person at one point? And it's just like, when they start talking, I'm like, oh my God, I can't. At that time I was doing this, and I had forgotten that I had been, you know, under all this. I was under watch for like a month or something. Like, there's so many things that I forgot, and let alone that, but the things that I would be talking about in sessions for hours and hours. What the fuck was I talking about in my sessions for sec checking for so long, for so many hours of the day, repetitively for months?
Yeah.
Did you both do the routing out, like by the book?
I think I'm going to talk to Bianca about that. Yeah, we'll have a combo because I'm missing lots of pieces of info. She's probably laughing right now, being like, "Oh my God, yeah." So email me. Oh, look, I can finally use my thing again. Here you go. Email me.
Yes,
so we can chit chat and figure out how to talk and catch up. But also for everybody else, if you're watching this and you're wondering about music or wondering about my next shows or anything like that, you're going to get all the information down below at lara.fm. You can always go there if you want to buy tickets or whatever the heck, any information, contact me, email, whatever it is, it's all going to be there. So on that note, guys, you got my email, you got that. Thank you, Mirjam. Thank you, Samuel, SP Chef.
Yes.
Is there anything else you would like to say or ask before I end this session?
I wanted to say first, thank you for taking this time with us. This was really interesting. Unfortunately, I didn't have so much input except, you know, the face of horror every time that you read a line from the book. But in about a couple of weeks of time, we will join forces again with Samuel in Copenhagen. He's coming here, and we're gonna do something fun.
Cool.
But fun for the old Elron's birthday. So that's gonna be something to look forward to.
That's awesome. That'll be cool. I'll be watching whatever you guys do coming out of that. And then we'll continue this. We're on page 10, so we'll do this whenever we're ready again. We'll do another one. It'll be interesting. Finish
this. Absolutely.
Insanity. This is healing something. We just don't know what it is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
And if it's not healing for us directly, it's gonna help other people.
100%. Yeah.
Yes.
And it also lets people understand us a little bit better. It lets them understand how people's emotions or triggers can be triggered in certain ways just by telling our stories and why certain things were held back or seemed reactive to us or whatever. So yeah, I love it.
Absolutely.
It's good. And I'm glad we finally did this, because I was like, I've always wanted to have, I feel like I love having intellectual conversations about simple things, like to talk about the whole handbook would just be like, oh God, where the fuck did we start? But to just take any piece of garbage that L. Ron Hubbard has ever written about, you're going to find so many contradictions and so much manipulation and control in what he's writing, and like reverse psychology and a lot of manipulative mind controlling stuff. So it's fun to break down any shitty shit he's doing, so that people understand how it ever became reasonable to be okay.
And let's hope someone gets something out of it and, you know, stumbles into it, and, you know, maybe a Scientologist would end up seeing something.
They
at one
do
point.
literally. They like Scott DOA just literally saved a mom and a child yesterday. They came up to him. It was a huge fucking thing, and they like literally said that they read the writing on the back of the RV, and then they started doing research. It's a whole thing. Go to his channel, look at it.
I saw it.
But like, that is so important. That is like, that is exactly like, to me, I'm like, well, good. Now we need to have fucking 50 RVs that have all this fucking writing around, so that it's just very clear. Go do your research. Go, like, so they know. Google it. Once you start Googling it or whatever, then you're going to start. That's literally how we, like, even when you leave the Sea Org, right, Samuel? You have the same thing when you left the Sea Org. You were just like, okay, what can I start to look at? What can I look at about Scientology on the internet without getting in trouble, without myself feeling like I'm getting in trouble? There's no way. You're literally feared to look at the internet. So the best way is to just have messages, signs, you know, things that are just very clear. Like, if you can't look it up, if you can't Google this, you're not free. And it's like, it shows whatever it is. So it is working. It's fucking awesome. And everything's work. Scientology is a mind fuck, fucking controlling organization. And they've worked really hard. They've used people up like us to really make sure that this sticks. And so it's going to get very sticky and messy unsticking it all.
Right.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. It's going to be a lot of work. So we definitely need everybody helping us all do it.
Yeah. And work together.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Okay. Love you guys so much. Thank you, everybody. Have a good day. See you soon. See y'all soon on the next Children Handbook Dissect.
Yeah. Bye.